Welcome everyone to the special meeting of the Planning Board. Today's Tuesday, July 21st, 2026. We're going to start with the introductions of each Planning Board member. I'll start with Stu Hardy.
Present.
Adam Raposa.
Present.
Rosemary Eva.
Present.
Alan Myers.
Present.
I'm Cheryl Valentine. I'll be facilitating the meeting. I'm chairperson. Our attorney, Todd Romano, and our town planner, Christopher Spencer. And that's it for this evening. We have one agenda on the meeting this evening: major land development, comprehensive permit, 0 Souza Road, Plat 103, Lot 220, Plat 110, Lot 102, south side of Souza Road. Project name is Vital at Tiverton Commons. Applicant is BCP Properties, LLC. Representing agent is Attorney John Mancini. This is in a zoning district of R40. Tonight we're going to do things a little bit different, considering this is a special meeting and one item. We're going to ask each attorney to come up. They've been advised that we'd like them to keep it to 10 minutes. We're going to start with Attorney Jackson and then go to Attorney Mancini. After each attorney speaks, we're going to ask the board if they have any questions for that attorney. It is not a public meeting, so we will not be taking questions from the public at this point.
Still a public hearing, but the public hearing has been closed, so there's no public comments.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. So let us start then. Attorney Jackson, if you would.
Can you take a question? To the chairperson?
I don't think so. I don't think we closed the public hearing at the last meeting. Is it something that you submitted to us?
No, the question is, would you be reopening the public discussion meeting based on some new information, which was sole question of jurisdiction? Seems like there's a lot of opportunity there to have that discussion.
Could I get your name for the record, sir, please?
Jason Osborne, 1168 Main Road. Yes.
And since that is more of a legal question, I'll defer that to our attorney.
The public hearing is closed. There's been no motion to reopen the public hearing, and I would also suggest that the applicant would have some concerns about reopening the public hearing and oppose that. But it's up to the board.
Do we want to let both attorneys speak or
I think you
address
should.
that first?
I think you should. Have Mr. Jackson go.
Okay. Attorney Jackson.
Alrighty. Madam Chair, Planning Board, thank you for having me tonight. I know I've only got 10 minutes, so I'd like to walk through a couple items on behalf of Carol Herman and Preserve Tiverton in objection to this application. I'd like to walk through the standards and findings that you have to make tonight. I'd like to talk about what authority or lack thereof Stonebridge has to extend service to this project. I'd like to raise some salient facts that were brought to your attention at the last meeting and highlight a couple items that are missing from the record. And then I'd like to reiterate some case law that is relevant to your ability to reject the expert testimony that has been presented before you. Regarding the standards, you need to make a determination on the availability of the potable water. I have submitted to you that that is a two-pronged analysis, that the water must be both physically available and legally available as well. Now, you have a powerful tool to deny this application. You have the ability, if your concerns regarding health and safety are not met, that you may, it's permissive, you may deny the application. Now, turning to the Title 46, Chapter 15 issues that I had raised, the Planning Board had noted or asked in question W4, who pays for what as part of this project. And in Title 46, the Stonebridge boundaries are set by law. That means that Stonebridge is not able on their own to change their own boundaries. What this means is that they cannot tax beyond their boundaries and they can't change those boundaries. So the development, which sits outside the boundaries of Stonebridge, is not able to be taxed by Stonebridge. They cannot raise tax revenue from the development. Now, a portion of the real estate is within Stonebridge, but the development itself is not. Now, I understand that the applicant says that these finances in his reply memo, that these are outside your purview. But I posit that the financial well-being of Stonebridge and their ability to raise taxes to defer any sort of increased cost from their participation in this project, that their financial well-being is relevant to their ability to provide clean and safe drinking water to the public. Second, Stonebridge is not able to unilaterally expand their supply outside of their district to an area they haven't legally done so before. And I had submitted to you that the applicant has not submitted evidence that that Stonebridge has supplied directly to retail customers outside of Stonebridge previously. And if they haven't done that, if you don't have substantial evidence of that before you, how can you make that first prong determination that they are legally capable of supplying water to this project? Now, I'd like to reiterate a couple relevant facts that were brought before you at the last meeting. Stonebridge themselves, through moderator Tim Byrne and their superintendent Carl Destrums, and also through their engineer Robert Ferrari, acknowledged or on their own brought to your attention 22 violations in a Department of Health Center for Drinking Water Quality annual report, 54 violations reported from the Department of Health from January 1st, 2022 to present. They identified missing fiscal reports. Actually, I'm not certain that the Stonebridge representatives knew what you were talking about. I don't know if that's better or worse. Robert Ferrari also acknowledged 10 line breaks in the last 18 months in the distribution system. He acknowledged a broken raw water pump that prevented Stonebridge independently providing water to its own customers, relying entirely on water from Fall River, which is in a different state over which Rhode Island has no authority, and the Tiverton residents are not electors of that water district. What is missing from the record is a written certification to you that the Stonebridge board has committed themselves to this project. The town planner identified 2 writings in his memo to you, his staff report to you, that Stonebridge has given you the 2023 annual report and the 2023 Consumer Confidence Report for the year 2022, reflecting back a year. Neither of those writings directly from Stonebridge actually reflect the fact that the board has taken a vote to commit themselves to this project. And so I pose to you, if Stonebridge has not taken that vote and you don't have that in writing, if it's not in evidence, how can you make the determination that water is available? Now, I'd like to finally turn to some of the case law that guides your ability to review and reject the expert testimony that's been presented before you. The applicant has been trying to convince you that you can only listen to their experts and that to disregard their experts would be an abuse of your discretion. And our Supreme Court has said that when a subject matter is understandable by only a few people, if it is arcane, then yes, we can only listen to the experts and it would be an abuse of discretion to disregard them. And that's the case sometimes, especially with traffic. Traffic engineers are the only ones that can be listened to regarding traffic. And also real estate appraisers, they're the only ones that are licensed by law to be before the board and present their appraisal opinion to a board. But that is not the case when water is involved. I had identified in my letter to you at the last meeting this case of Restivo, in which a developer had hired an expert to testify that stormwater would not be an issue as part of that development project. There were no opposing experts in the Restivo case, and lay witnesses had come before that planning board and had talked about water in their basement. They had talked about pre-existing stormwater issues that they had already identified with their own 2 eyes. And our Supreme Court said that lay witness testimony that is about observed facts is able to be relied upon by a planning board. In other words, it doesn't take a master's degree to walk into a basement, see that it's flooded, and realize that there's a problem. Now, our courts have taken that case and applied it in other situations as well. And I had cited to you the Fagan case, and I understand that that is a Superior Court case. But in the Fagan case, a developer in Middletown wanted to subdivide some lots and use well water. And the applicant came armed to the teeth with experts, and all the experts said, there is adequate well water, there's adequate groundwater for these wells. Lay witnesses, neighbors, came up and said that we already, with our wells, have problems with our wells. We don't get drinking water already. They didn't have their own expert. The planning board permitted, or the Superior Court, sorry, permitted the planning board to deny that application based on the lay witness testimony about dry wells. And the reasoning is the same. It doesn't take a master's degree to realize that your well is dry and you don't have water. I think this is distinguishable from the Newcastle case that the town planner has provided you. And that case was about a septic system that was approved by DEM and wetlands. It does take a master's degree to figure out whether or not phosphates and nitrates from an underground leach field will, in the future, impact wetlands. That's not something that is otherwise observable with the naked eye. That does require a degree of scientific expertise. And so I think that the matter before you tonight about the availability of drinking water is more akin to the Restivo case and more akin to the Fagan case, where lay witnesses have come before you, the public has come before you and told you about pre-existing delivery problems with water. It doesn't take a genius to turn on your faucet, see mud come out, and realize that something is wrong. So in sum, to conclude, Stonebridge can't tax what's being built. Stonebridge can't unilaterally extend their supply into an area they haven't legally done so before. The written items submitted to you directly from Stonebridge do not reflect the fact that a vote has been taken committing themselves to this project. The lay witnesses that have been before you have been probative, and you can rely upon these lay witnesses in order to deny the application. Planning boards have been here before. They have been presented or confronted by applicants armed to the teeth with experts. Planning boards have used good sense to deny these applications, and those denials have withheld or been upheld upon judicial scrutiny. And I ask that you do the same tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Jackson. Does any member of the board have any questions for Attorney Jackson at this point in time? Okay, thank you.
I do. Mr. Jackson, you cited the Middle Creek
Yes.
case, didn't you?
I did.
And that was a split lot case in Portsmouth
Yes.
and Middletown, correct?
Yes.
And what was the holding of that?
I'm glad you raised that point. So
Because they allowed, or they required rather, Portsmouth to provide water, although it did not want to
Yes.
that split lot, 3 split lots, where the house was on the Middletown side, not the Portsmouth side, correct?
Correct. If I can, give me a moment, I'll walk through the facts of that case. So, a developer in Middletown subdivided a bunch of lots. Most of those lots were entirely in Middletown. A few of them were over the town line. So a few of the lots were in Portsmouth. Even though a few of those lots were in Portsmouth, all the houses were in Middletown. And the developer wanted Portsmouth Water and Fire District to supply water to these houses. Now, Portsmouth Water and Fire said, it's over the property line, we can't do it, right? What is different about that case in the Rhode Island Supreme Court case, not the Superior Court case, the Rhode Island Supreme Court case, what they held is that because the lots were partially in Portsmouth and because Portsmouth Water and Fire acknowledged that these lots pay taxes to them, it would be in line with their charter to supply water to them.
That's right.
That's correct.
How's it
Yes.
different here?
It's different here because what I had posited is that the applicant has not submitted evidence that taxes have been paid. They haven't submitted evidence that it would be in line with their charter.
Okay. When has a planning board ever required evidence of paying a property tax or a water bill tax?
I think in this case it would be applicable.
At the last moment, when you're asking for this, right?
No, it would be applicable.
It is.
It's upon the applicant to provide that evidence.
And tell me, Mr. Jackson, is it within this board's authority to even decide who has legal authority? Whether, is it within this board's authority to decide whether Stonebridge has the legal authority to grant or give water to this development?
Yes, I
How?
do. I think it's within their jurisdiction because in order for there to be physical water that's physically available, as I had mentioned before, it has to be legally available first. And so if they can't make that determination, how can it be available at all?
You're asking this board to find that Stonebridge does not legally have authority to provide water to the vital project, right? That's what you're asking.
That's correct.
And how does this board have that jurisdiction?
Through the required element that there be available water.
Okay. Okay. But it can't decide whether Stonebridge has authority to provide water to vital, correct?
No, I think that they do, pursuant to that element.
Okay.
Yeah, sir.
Are there any other
No,
questions?
I can advise you as to how expert testimony is treated later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Attorney Mancini?
Thank you. Madam Chairman, members of the board, again, good evening. John Mancini on behalf of the applicant. I know that this is not probably a pleasant situation to be in, right? When you have a great deal of information before you and a great deal of people looking at you and a great deal of controversy with respect to what you should and what you should not do. And I don't envy your position having to do all those things. I appreciate your position. I've had the opportunity to do what I do in 39 cities and towns throughout the state, and I know the amount of effort and time that it takes from people like you who participate in these voluntary boards. I've been on your side and I've been on this side, and I sometimes like it better on this side than on that side. So first and foremost, I regardless of your decision, I appreciate the effort that you put into what you do and how you do it, and I hope that the residents of your community appreciate the effort that you put into it. And here I can attest to the fact that you've done a great deal of work. Because you've put you've tasked the applicant to do its job and to manifest to you the fact that that it can perform what it says to be performed. And how have you done that? Well, my job here is to satisfy the burden required by Rhode Island General Laws 4553-4. And when we started this process at Master Plan, there was a great deal of discussion as to what that burden was and what that proposal was and how could a development like this take place in a zone like this. And the response to it is very simple. My job is to follow the law. And Rhode Island General Laws 4553-4 set forth the parameters by which we submit this application. It is the law. Your job is not to make policy. Your job is to ensure that the law has been followed. And my job is to, again, meet that burden. And the applicant here did that at Master Plan. At Master Plan, the board made certain particular findings of fact. Those findings of fact were memorialized in a decision. They are vested. One of the most important findings that the board made at Master Plan was a determination that this project was consistent with the comprehensive plan, and it was consistent with the elements of 4553-4, subject to certain conditions. And those conditions were to be satisfied prior to the submission for preliminary plan. We satisfied those conditions at the submission of preliminary plan. We went through an exhaustive process with your town planner, with your peer consultant, to ensure that we met those obligations prior to the submission of the master plan. We satisfied that master plan. That master plan is vested, as I've indicated. And then we went forth to further delineate for you preliminary plan. And in doing so, we presented a series of experts. The experts were Molly Titus from the pre-engineering, Todd Brighton with Bryan Associates with regard to traffic, Ed Primentel, we brought him back from Master Plan to discuss the comprehensive permit process and consistency with the comprehensive plan. Joe Lombardo, who testified to the economic impact, school-aged children. He did that in conjunction with testimony from Christopher Haskins, the town superintendent. We had our architects from ISG. We had our consultant, PAR Engineering, both Lisa Goyer and Timothy Thies, with respect to water. And then we also requested testimony from Stonebridge Fire District and had Robert Ferrari testify here, not on our behalf, but on behalf of Stonebridge Fire District with regards to water availability. And that was the most important issue that this board has dealt with from the beginning, because one of the primary conditions that the board instituted with respect to preliminary plan and with respect to our ability to proceed was that we conduct an hydraulic model. That hydraulic model had to be consistent with an hydraulic model with Stonebridge Fire District. We comported with that. We submitted that model. That model was reviewed by your engineers, Weston and Sampson. They made their recommendations. Those recommendations went back and forth between PAR Engineering, the pre-engineering, and Weston and Sampson. Again, those items were addressed at length during a multitude of public hearings, not only by Stonebridge Fire District, but also by our experts, but primarily and most importantly by the town's experts. And when you look at the summation of the information provided, there's only one real conclusion here, and that is that the witnesses which were presented by the applicant were thorough, They were complete, and they were found to be credible, not by me, but by your own peer engineer. That's the whole point of having a peer engineer. And I think that really my conclusion here is not necessarily my words, but you should look at the words of your staff. Look at the words of your own peer engineer. Look at the staff report of June 15, 2026. I presented to you a memorandum essentially summarizing that report, because to me, that report does exactly what the process requires it to do and what applicants are required to do. Submit information, vent that information, have it reviewed, have it summarized, and then determine a conclusion. Your peer reviewer, your staff recommendation, staff report concluded that our experts were credible. Your staff report explicitly describes and explains the process by which the planning board is to conduct in determining whether or not preliminary plan is acceptable. And one of the findings that it makes is that it expresses a limitation with regards to what the review is concerning water. And specifically, the report states that water determination is limited. It's limited by one, relevancy, and two, whether or not there is a system-wide issue. So our expert, Lisa Goyer, our expert, Mr. Theis, determined availability, determined hydraulic, determined availability, and determined infrastructure, both of which concluded that there was no issue with respect to how this project was going to be served by water. You know, the question was raised at the 11th hour with regards to whether water can legally be provided. The testimony, not by the applicant, but by Stonebridge itself. I mean, you heard at the last hearing, Stonebridge specifically stating to the board that a vote of its board was taken which authorized the ability for us to get water. That was done by oral testimony. That's clear and conclusive. There's not more that needs to be said or done with respect to water. It's a checkmark item. It's been checked marked, and the planning board's role in determining whether or not we have water starts with Stonebridge and it ends with Stonebridge, both from availability standpoint and from a legality standpoint. You heard from Robert Ferrari, Stonebridge's own expert, both testify as to availability, as to infrastructure, and ultimately also as to legality of it. So I don't believe that there's any question with regards to whether or not this project can be served by portable water. I think that issue was concluded at the time that at the time that the certificate of completeness was issued. Now, the determination, the discussion with regards to whether or not Stonebridge water infrastructure properly services the entire water distribution system, frankly, is not a discussion to be had by the planning board. It's not within the planning board's realm of authority with regards to 4553-4, which governs comprehensive permits. Again, your staff report recognizes that the board cannot become a water utility regulator. The language of the staff report is very distinct and it's very clear, and it says this. It says that Stonebridge Fire District's capacity to serve the entire district is limited for two reasons. One is relevancy, and two, the fire district is a community public water system regulated by the Rhode Island Department of Health. It's not a system that's regulated by the town council or by the planning board. It's definitely not something that the planning board can regulate, determine, and it's not within the elements that are found under 4553-4. So I believe that the argument of whether or not Stonebridge can have legal authority to provide water is simply a red herring and not within your control. And I think the case law that my brother recognizes and the case law that my brother discusses is simply not relevant. It's not applicable here. The facts are completely different. And the case that is most applicable here is the Newcastle Realty case. And again, a case not cited by me, but by your own planner, by your own experts. They're your consultants. And so to deviate from the planning staff report of June 15, 2026 is really an abuse of discretion because there's no evidence in the record, no expert testimony in the record that would give you that type of leeway, that ability to contradict the report as prepared by the staff. The staff also makes a distinction between planning concerns and legal standards. And the planning staff report concludes at the end that the legal standards that are demonstrated by the law have been satisfied by the applicant. And the planning staff recommendation takes the issues one by one. And the first issue that we discussed, and we discussed it back at master plan, was density. And the density has been candidly an issue from day one. However, the planning board at master plan, the planning staff in its June 15th report concludes that these facts, and when I say these facts, the facts about being in a zone that does not allow the type of density here, standing alone is not enough to deny the application. And that's simply because under the low moderate income housing act 4553-4, Tiverton has essentially is required to follow those provisions. And as a result, it hasn't met its statutory 10% affordable housing threshold, and density has been properly put before the board. Also, if you recall, in density, your planning staff, in conjunction with your peer reviewer, Weston and Sampson, did an extensive analysis with regards to the calculations. And we actually came below what could be provided for on this property. Additionally, we talked about fire protection. Fire protection was also satisfactorily addressed. We talked about water, and we talked about pedestrian safety. We have acknowledged from the beginning that we want to work with the town with respect to pedestrian safety. We've gone to great lengths to ensure that there is continuity with respect to pathways within the development, and we're doing our best to work with respect to pathways outside of the development. As your staff planner report concludes, there are certain limitations. They include wetlands, they include RIDEM limitations and RIDOT limitations, which prevent those improvements. But despite that, the applicant is willing to work with both RIDM, RIDOT, in conjunction with the town to see if we can ameliorate that and provide an answer to those questions. We're amenable to those types of conditions. So in sum, I think that the applicant has been thorough. Its presentation has been complete. We've satisfied the elements of 4553-4. We believe that the June 15, 2026 memorandum from the staff establishes a proper summary of our evidence and concludes that preliminary plan approval is worthy in this case.
Thank you, Attorney Mancini. We appreciate that. Does any board member have questions for Attorney Mancini? Stu?
I have a question and a comment.
Stu.
I'd just like to clarify an issue that Attorney Mancini raised a minute ago when he was speaking about the hydraulic model of the Stonebridge Fire District water delivery system. This is a computerized simulation of all of the pipes, the nodes, the pumps, the hydrants, so that it provides an opportunity to put in a new project comes along. It's going to require a lot more water. You can run the numbers of that new project through this computerized model called a hydraulic model and come up with whether or not you've got enough water. Now, when Stonebridge Fire District agreed to move ahead with a hydraulic model of their delivery system, an agreement was made with the town and with Weston and Sampson that Weston and Sampson, which has considerable expertise in water systems, would actually review not only the Stonebridge hydraulic model, but also the North Tiverton Fire District hydraulic model, and look at how those two models fit together, because as we all know, half of North Tiverton's water comes from Stonebridge. So that was the agreement, and that agreement is actually described on the Stonebridge Fire District website in their fiscal 2024-2025 annual report. So that was going to be great, because then with a peer review, a Weston and Sampson engineering firm peer review of the Stonebridge model, we, the town of Tiverton, would know that, yes, this is a really good model that meets industry standards as defined by the American Water Works Association. Well, at our December meeting, the moderator of Stonebridge Fire District, Mr. Timothy Byrne, said, no, you can't see our model. Our model is strictly confidential because of the sensitivity of the information. So Weston and Sampson never saw that model, nor did the planning board ever receive any comments from Weston and Sampson saying that they were satisfied with that model. Now, I know that subsequently they worked with Stonebridge Fire District and Power Corporation, and did what they could do. But I just wanted to clarify that they never saw that model, which always mystified me a little bit, because non-disclosure agreements are very common in industry, in business and industry. And I think something could have been worked out with Stonebridge Fire, but that wasn't my responsibility. So that's all I wanted to say.
I would just like to jump on that a little bit before any comment is made. On the Stonebridge Fire District website, it is still up there today. It's from the annual report, which I mentioned at our last meeting. It's the annual report 2023-2024. It says, in the past several years, Tiverton has seen major housing development proposals, most of which are at the review stage by town boards. Questions have been raised regarding the impacts of these developments on town services, including the availability of water that is safe for drinking, cooking, bathing, and other household uses. The town sought and received a grant from the state of Rhode Island to conduct a hydraulic study of the Stonebridge and North Tiverton water distribution systems. The study will help determine the availability of these systems to provide an adequate supply of water for the proposed developments. The town has hired the engineering firm Weston and Sampson to conduct the study. Stonebridge engineer, Northeast Water Solutions, will assist the district in collecting the data needed to complete the study. I have just one more thing to read. This is from the Weston and Sampson documentation. They were brought in by the town to get an overall picture of the water infrastructure based on new developments coming in. And this predates anything from BCP. This was something that was in the works for several years. This was for an infrastructure capacity assessment, assessing water infrastructure capacity to support future housing development in Tiverton's North Tiverton and Stonebridge districts. Through Rhode Island Housing Municipal Technical Assistance Program, Weston and Sampson is assisting the town of Tiverton with conducting a comprehensive assessment of water infrastructure capacity in Tiverton's North Tiverton and Stonebridge fire districts to evaluate their ability to support additional housing development. Again, from several years ago. So this is something that's been in the works for many years. If we had that information, if Stonebridge had not backed out on this in a meeting within the past year, kind of at the 10th hour in this whole process.
It was our December meeting.
We may have had the information that we need, but unfortunately, we feel the board feels like we're missing pieces of the information because we do not have this, even though it was agreed to. Not necessarily a question for yourself.
No.
Just a statement to,
But I want to, and I appreciate that. But remember, the board specifically required the applicant to do an hydraulic study, which we did. The board, in its last round of questions, asked specifically, has the water utility confirmed that sufficient water capacity exists to serve the development without impacting existing residents? And Robert Ferrari, Northeast Water Solutions, who is the engineer for Stonebridge, his response to that question, he says, SBFD, Stonebridge Fire District's response to that question in writing, July 14, 2026, says, yes, Stonebridge Fire District has previously confirmed in writing that sufficient water capacity exists to serve the proposed development without adversely impacting existing customers. An engineering evaluation and hydraulic model simulation of the existing and proposed demand conditions, including a maximum demand day scenario, determined sufficient capacity exists. Stonebridge Fire District has confirmed this in a written memo dated June 10, 2026, submitted to the applicant and planning board and reviewed during direct testimony in the planning board on June 16, 2026. As the applicant, I don't have anything else better that I can rely on than words written by the expert. Words written by the consultant for Stonebridge. Robert Ferrari testified he doesn't represent Blue Dog. He doesn't represent the applicant. He represents Fire District. He has an obligation to review the hydraulic model that PAR engineer prepared in conjunction with the hydraulic model that PAR engineer prepared for our project and to make a determination. He's done that in writing. So when we hear that there is no evidence before this board as to the legality of providing potable water and the existence of potable water, that's simply false. You've heard it multiple times. And now it's one more time in writing, prepared by Mr. Ferrari on behalf of Stonebridge Fire District. So to provide otherwise is not only an abuse of discretion, but it's going to be termed as an egregious abuse of discretion. So that is something you're going to have to determine how you want to tread on, because the evidence is there. This site can be serviced by potable water, and there is no evidence that says that it cannot be serviced by potable water.
I do have a question. You just brought something up to remind me of our meeting a couple of months ago when we had both of our experts here from North Tiverton and from Stonebridge. North Tiverton told us that night, we didn't know this prior, that they denied the application for water because they couldn't provide water. Stonebridge then got up and said, we can provide water. And discussions ensued about pipes, failures in the pipes and various things over the next hour. And then they said, well, don't worry. We can look back at the transcripts. Don't worry. If there was a failure in Stonebridge, we have North Tiverton as a backup. The same person who just said they cannot provide water to that place. You just reminded me of that. Thank you. I mean, this is experts that we've had come in. We had both experts in the same place at the same time. It was a circular discussion. One said that they couldn't do it, but if he fails, we can.
Well,
So
that's no different than when you have mutual aid with fire departments. Your fire chief also brought up the fact that, if they can't service a fire, they have mutual aid from other communities to come in and service
that's a
fire.
concept. That's not an actuality.
Well, that's what Stonebridge said. It's a concept. It's not an actuality. Stonebridge expects
Water's an
to
actuality,
provide.
though.
But
Water's an actuality.
Stonebridge said they can provide water. If they can, if there's a break in the system or an impact to the system, they have methods put in place to assist in that. That's a
But
temporary
they just
fix.
testified minutes before, said they couldn't do it.
Okay, I got you.
That's
I
all.
got it. I got it. Thank you.
Mr. Hardy, I'm just curious as to why you brought up the contract with Western and Sampson to review the hydraulic model.
Because the only way a water system can understand whether it can handle a major expansion of its customer base is to run that information through a hydraulic model. a hydraulic model is specifically defined by the industry-wide association called the American Water Works Association.
Understood.
And the whole reason for bringing Weston and Sampson into the picture at the point where the hydraulic model was being put together was to have them peer review the process to make sure that Stonebridge Fire District was using all of the protocols necessary to make that hydraulic model consistent with industry standards. And that never happened.
Are you questioning the veracity or the results of the hydraulic model?
I have no idea if the hydraulic model is A1 or if it's not. I have no idea one way or the other. I'm simply saying that we all agreed, the planning board was part of this process, the town administrator at the time was part of this process, and there was a big emphasis on learning more about the town's infrastructure, not just water, but all kinds of infrastructure, because so many new developments were coming before us. We wanted to make sure that it wouldn't overburden our infrastructure. So this is one of the things that came out of that review. And Weston and Sampson was charged with doing a peer review to make sure that what Stonebridge was putting together would in fact meet industry-wide standards. That never happened because Mr. Timothy Byrne told us at our December meeting that it was confidential information and it would not be shared with the town of Tiverton or with Weston and Sampson.
And that's why I'm trying to understand why you're asking about this. Is it because you're looking at that because you don't want to accept the hydraulic model, or
No.
because
I am simply correcting. I had the impression that Attorney Mancini was making a point that our own consulting engineer, Weston and Sampson, is entirely on board with Ferrari and with Par Corporation. And I just wanted to point out that this is not the case, not with respect to the fact that they were originally charged by the town of Tiverton with doing a peer review of the hydraulic model, and that did not happen.
understood.
And I think that's important because, as I've said, and as anybody who knows anything about hydraulic engineering will tell you, a hydraulic model is really an essential element, an essential tool of any water utility to be able to understand what's going on, what needs attention, what needs to be replaced, how to budget for preventative maintenance, and how to handle big new projects such as this one that come before a relatively small system with a limited number of customers. That's the only point I was trying to make.
Well, I'm confused then. Is it that you don't trust the information from the hydraulic model, or you're just upset that upset's not the right word, that the contract wasn't adhered to, that Weston and Sampson would review it?
This planning board frequently hires experts to do peer review of traffic studies, for example. We've been doing that for years. I've been on the
Yes.
board for years. That is not, we're not saying we distrust what the applicant's traffic engineer is doing. We're simply making sure that the town is protected because the town has its own engineer that's not being paid by the applicant, but its own engineer that can work with the applicant's engineer and say, okay. So if I am not saying that the Stonebridge hydraulic model is not adequate. I'm simply saying that we didn't have a chance to peer review it. And I think you understand that, Mr. Romano.
But that's because of Stonebridge's decision, correct?
Well-
Stonebridge prevented that from happening.
Stonebridge prevented that from happening. They pulled out of an agreement that they had signed onto, and it's on their website. They haven't even removed the statement that's
I
on their
agree.
website.
I agree.
If I may, just two points. One, I just want to respond to Mr. Hardy's report. Weston Sampson reviewed our material. They reviewed our material. There's no report. There's nothing that Western Sampson has done in writing to state that we have not done what we were supposed to do with regards to our conditions for master plan. We submitted our hydraulic study. We submitted our testimony that was reviewed. With regards to Mr. Meyer's question, I think I want to refer you to the July 14, 2024 memo, where the board specifically asked the question, and perhaps this is your question, where he said, if the treatment plant shuts down, can NTFD, that's North Tiverton Fire District, backfeed enough Fall River water to satisfy existing concerns in the proposed project? How is the Portsmouth Water Authority involved? And Stonebridge Fire District's response is yes. In fact, this condition occurred in October, November of 2025, when the Stonebridge Fire District lost its source water intake system and relied upon Fall River via the North Tiverton Fire District for 100% of its supply and for an approximate 5-week duration. Portsmouth is another water source that can supply the Stonebridge Fire District. Stonebridge Fire District has excellent resiliency and sustainability via 2 alternative water sources, in addition to the Stafford Pond that normally supplies 100% source capacity. So I think Mr. Ferrari, on behalf of Stonebridge, answers that question better than I can answer it.
I wasn't on the board then. It was
No.
2025 since I've been on the board, but like I
No,
said, I
this
can
is-
only
this is July
answer
4th.
myself for
No,
what
no.
I've seen in the last year, so.
Okay, this is July 14, 2026.
Yeah.
This is Mr. Ferrari's memo. You've got it in your packet. It's the
Yeah,
memo.
but
I've
you
got a
mentioned
copy of it.
2024, that I may have been the person who raised it, so.
No. No, this is, you had a question earlier about whether or not it could your question was, how can North Tiverton Fire District, that doesn't have the water, provide water to Stonebridge if it falls? And it's a good question.
If it couldn't do it before, how can it do it in an
Well,
emergency?
Mr. Ferrari indicates right now that it can. It has in the past. In fact, it did it back in October of 2025. So I just refer to the July 14, 2026 memorandum responding to that question. And the question, and I can read it again, but the answer is right there. Yeah, I know. You heard it. So again, it's just an abuse of discretion. Egregious abuse of discretion.
If there are no other questions to Attorney Mancini, we'll start with some board questions and discussions. I would like to just start by clarifying, Mr. Mancini referred to the June 15th 18-page document from our town planner, and I just wanted to address that for a minute here. Give me a minute. Okay. So this correspondence from our town planner, and this isn't anything against our town planner or anything else, it's just based on the document here. I feel that it was done prematurely. This was done before we had our last meeting. Our last meeting in June was in excess of 5.5 hours. This document was prepared before that, and there was a lot of new information that was presented in that last meeting. I feel that if advisory points need to be made by the planner to the planning board, we respect him, we respect his opinion. That would have been welcome as an advisory opinion, but unfortunately, I feel this went much further than that. It was sent to the developer's attorney prior to our last meeting. I think input from the board should have been requested. We should have been given an opportunity, whether or not we agreed with certain experts or whether or not we agreed with the comments that were there. The board is comprised of residents. We live in Tiverton, from one end of Tiverton to the other. We've all been here for a number of years. Some of us have grown up here. We choose to live here because we love this town. Neither our attorney or our planner live in Tiverton. And this is a decision that needs to be made by the planning board. We are not lawyers, obviously. We're not engineers, but we base our decisions based on the best information that we have. We appreciate all of the input from the residents. And I just wanted to say, it's an all-volunteer board. We would appreciate the respect of our town administration, our town council, and our advisors, but we would appreciate being involved in the decisions going forward. Attorney Mancini actually made a reference of the document, that 18-page document, and he said, that the report is among the strongest materials supporting the applicant's position and may be the most important document in the administrative record. And that puts us in I feel, this is just my opinion, in a very awkward position. So we're doing the best we can. We are going through the documentation the best that we can, but we're not lawyers doing this. So we're not intentionally doing anything wrong. It's a lot of information to go through. I looked at just my different packets today. It's over 10 inches of information just since I've been on the board. So I'm just going to state some facts, and then I'd like our board members to chime in or to go through the information that you've collected.
Madam Chair, if I may add to that, I had it in my
Please.
brief, but you did a very good job there as far as that document. And Chris, that was a good document. But I did, and I spoke with Mr. Romano about having an executive session to discuss the information that we have gotten. And Mr. Romano was agreeable, but he had to ask Mr. Marcello. I mean, in the Open Meeting Act, if there's a potential litigation, we could have an executive session, but I was admonished by the town solicitor and said everything had to be in public. So because so many,
admonished, Rosemary.
pardon me, not you, but I mean, it was really he didn't get back to me, so I was admonished after the meeting. However, have been here for many years, and we have a lot of new people here, and that was the intent of my wanting to have this, so we could discuss it and be trained and have a general discussion with everybody that's sitting up here, but it didn't happen. So thank you, Cheryl.
I just need to respond to that. There is no legal basis for us to have an executive session to discuss the potential decision here. And that's what it would have been.
No, it wouldn't have been. It would have been procedure and,
Procedure can also be discussed here in
and
public.
training. We have not had the training.
Training would also have to be in public.
Yes, but it could have been all lumped in if people had it, because you don't let us talk if it's not on the agenda. Or ask a question.
God forbid I hold you to the Open Meetings Act. But thank you for giving me that credit, Rosemary. Appreciate it.
Do you want to do yours, then I'll do mine?
Why don't you start, because it might be easier. You have an overview.
So I just have some information here that I just want to get on the record and just, for our own understanding of this development. It's been a long time, but I have only been chair since March. So I know I am still learning. I appreciate the patience of everyone going through this. And honestly, we're doing the best we can getting through the information. So Vital is 256 units in 6 residential buildings with 25% LMI, which is 64 units. Pecasset Reserve, which is basically across the street, has 275 units with 69 LMI units. That's 256 plus the 275 is 532 units with well over 1,000 residents calculated at only 2 people average per unit. If you calculate 3 people per unit, that's over 1,500 people across the street from one another off a small 2-lane street. Sousa Road in general is described as a small 2-lane road, no shoulder, poor lighting, with hills. According to your traffic expert and mentioned in the Weston and Sampson memo of 5/27/26, the speed limit on Sousa Road is 25 miles per hour, with an average speed, according to your traffic expert, of 43 miles per hour. That's 18 miles over the speed limit. Weston and Sampson engineer mentioned this represents a significant danger to pedestrians walking on Sousa Road. So the only way to get to Main Road or Fish Road, basically the two main streets off Sousa, is to walk or bike on Sousa Road unless you drive a vehicle out of Vital. Well, as I just mentioned, even the engineer mentioned that represents a significant danger to pedestrians. So the traffic on Sousa Road is expected to increase significantly. The amount of delay when entering, especially Main Road, is not insignificant, and again, that's mentioned in the 527 Weston and Sampson memo. The issue of sidewalks, no sidewalks, but no mention of this, at least in my feeling, until very late in the project. It had been planned for sidewalks outside of the development. The proposed internal walking path to nowhere, very nice. They're very nice. But there's certainly no replacement for 500, possibly 600 plus new residents of this development to safely walk or bike anywhere. The residents cannot walk or bike to a grocery store, a bank, or anywhere outside of the development. And maybe if there were amenities that were included in this contained development of this size, it would be safer and convenient. But I feel it becomes unsafe not to have a safe way to walk or bike outside the development other than in a vehicle. There's no public transportation in the area except for one and only one bus that goes to the Fish Road Park and Ride in the morning and then a return trip in the afternoon. There are no taxis in Tiverton and no mass transportation, which we all know. I also wanted to mention the master plan approval, number 39, requires written confirmation from the applicable water authority. I know Attorney Mancini mentions that we've received a voluminous amount of information on this, but according to that, it says written confirmation from the applicable water authority. And maybe it's just me in my newness or naivety, but I would think that's written confirmation directly from Stonebridge. I know Par Engineering has commented on it, Mr. Ferrari has commented, other people have commented, but I could not find anything directly from Stonebridge, and I could not find anything from their board that said anyone else had the board's approval to act on their behalf. Maybe it exists before I got on the board, I just couldn't find it. It also referred to an independent peer hydraulic model review prior to the preliminary plan approval. And that goes back to the information that I read earlier that is currently posted on the Stonebridge website, and the information that the town requested and applied for a grant with Weston and Sampson. So again, it may be me, but I'm trying to investigate this and research this the best I can. Mr. Burns also alluded to at our last meeting that they could supply water, but that he, in this particular territory, in this area, but that he had board approval to do it. And I've just trying to do my research, went through 3 years of minutes from Stonebridge Water, and I could not find that there was a vote or any approval that was done on that. So that to me is not outside of our purview. That to me is just doing our homework and doing the research based on what people are telling us. And I'm just trying to understand it the best that I can. In the master plan approval, it also indicated in a couple of different points that there would be no impact on the availability and water pressure for other users, including those in the North Tiverton Water District. It says no impact. So I don't know if the 3 PSIs or the decrease that has been noted falls within that no. Okay. And again, I just want to refer to my previous notes that I brought up with Weston and Sampson and the information that Stonebridge has posted. So as I also mentioned in the June 2026 meeting, for the last annual report posted on the Stonebridge website, actually, I'm just going to pull that back for a second. As I mentioned in the 2026 June meeting, the State of Rhode Island Office of the Auditor General Fire District Tier 1 results for fiscal year 2023 annual reporting filing, and that is required. It remains unfiled as of the last time that I looked at this, and this is from 2023. And continue with the above, the annual report for the fiscal year 2024 Tier 1 results, again, a required report, still remains unfiled. We've talked about State of Rhode Island Department of Health, 54 violations, 40 EPA violations, numerous other reports. The Center for Drinking Water Quality Report, which I did bring up in June, the 2024 annual report, lists 22 violations. The next highest is 13. Following that is 11, then 8. Then the remainder on the list are with 1 to 4 violations. That's not minor, and that's not showing any improvement. So it is a concern. Northeast Water Solutions, the Stonebridge Fire District Supply Management Plan Executive Summary dated August 2020, updated June 2022, lists the water transmission and distribution system infrastructure as fair to poor, with an age of the transmission lines from the late 1940s. 2, Rhode Island Department of Health boil water notices just in the last 90 days. Water main breaks from May 2023 to May 2026. These are reported breaks that were confirmed with the Stonebridge water minutes. May 2023 to April 24, 2 breaks. May 24 to April 25, 4 breaks. May 25 to May 26, 8 breaks. So the concern is it's not decreasing, it is increasing. Many may say it's not in our purview, but we are residents here, and this is something that we care passionately about, and we want to make sure we do the best job possible. I did bring up, Attorney Jackson had mentioned a lot of this about the territory. I looked at our comp plan. I looked at the most recent maps of the territories of both Stonebridge and North Tiverton, and I as well have a concern about that. I am concerned, although Power Engineering did a hydraulic model, it was not the hydraulic model that was mentioned by Stonebridge in the past. And Weston and Sampson was supposed to be the peer review for that. We have a hydraulic model from Power Engineering, but it's not of the entire system, which is something that we were led to believe would be done. So I also feel that we've had a significant improvement in Tiverton's LMI housing numbers. 2 years ago, we were at 4.6. Numbers for 2025 show an LMI at 6.05. That's a significant improvement for a town our size. I know we're not at 10%, but 6.05 from where we were is a significant improvement. That is without Pecasset Reserve, which is an additional 275 units with 25% LMI, and several other small developments. Attorney Mancini mentioned in his 425-26 on page 7 reference, the entire project is a large puzzle with each piece intricate to the overall. And I believe you were referring to the units being spread out across the residential campus. And I don't want to misquote you in any way, but I do like the phrase, these are all pieces of the puzzle. And there are many intricate pieces. There are many things that are going on with this development that we just don't feel have been buttoned up to the point where we can feel we can safely do this with our residents. This is a very large project, especially for a small town such as Tiverton. I personally do not believe this is consistent with our community comp plan. I've read our comp plan, I'm familiar with it. I've spoken to various people who helped write it or participated in the process. I've been a resident here for over 50 years, and I don't think two massive size developments off of a small 2-lane road, which I already mentioned how many people that could potentially involve, is consistent with our comp plan. We want development. We don't have a problem with development. We don't have a problem with LMI units, but this is overburdening a very small section of town. They're literally across the street from one another, and they're both major, large developments. That's what we have a problem with. It's meant to be spread out in our town, not all within one area. The comp plan clearly states that affordable housing policy to promote affordable housing options that are well integrated into our community and foster geographic, cultural, and social diversity. And that comes right from our comp plan, page 75. The 275 unit development across the street has already been approved, and it's already started building for those of you that drive by there. Putting another 256 unit comp plan across the street puts the two largest affordable housing projects that I can remember in one small area. That's absolutely not geographic diversity. The plan was never, let's put all the affordable housing off Sousa Road. That wasn't our plan, from the intent of everyone that I spoke to involved with the comp plan, and from myself involved in reading and researching it many times. I think that's it at this point. Before I can't speak any longer, I'd like to go around the table and hear from our board members, and I may chime in a little bit more later. Thank you. Alan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That was well put, and I will make this one statement for the record. It's not an egregious act to state the obvious here. Just a response to the egregious things.
For the court to decide.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
We're not going to do that.
I want to state for the record the basis for whatever vote I give when we do our vote. My decision is not about whether Tiverton needs housing nor about the applicant. It rests on the findings of this board is required to make under Rhode Island General Laws 4553-4. Whether this project will have significant negative impacts on the health and the safety of our current and future residents, including the availability of potable water and the safe circulation of pedestrian and vehicular traffic. On this record, I cannot make these findings in the applicant's favor, and the law does not permit me to approve an application when the required findings are unsupported. First, potable water. The town's own consulting engineer, Weston and Sampson, told us in writing that whether the Stonebridge Fire District has adequate treatment capacity to keep pace with the demand. That remains unexplored, and that was the finding they had. The record shows 22 Department of Health violations in a single year, a complete treatment shutdown lasting roughly 5 weeks last fall that forced total reliance on the backfeed from the neighboring district, an escalating pattern of water main breaks, and annual audits that remain unfulfilled. Abutting residents testified to service interruptions and sediment in their water. I have weighed that testimony against the documented history and the resident testimony before us, as the law permits me to do, and I am not persuaded that the question of potable water has been resolved. Second is an unanswered legal question. Stonebridge is a special water district whose boundaries are fixed by law, and this parcel lies at least partly within the North Tiverton district. State laws limits a district's ability to extend its supply beyond its boundaries. I have not seen substantial evidence that Stonebridge has ever legally supplied retail customers in that territory, nor how the cost of the expansion would be borne without falling on the existing taxpayers. That must be resolved before I can find the water supply legally available. Third, pedestrian safety, and this is a big one. I've stood on this since the very beginning when I came onto this board a year ago. Sousa Road is a narrow, undulating corridor with no sidewalks that already carries about 2,000 vehicles a day. and it is the only access for this project. 3 developments would concentrate more than 500 units on this single street, yet the traffic study before us examined this project in isolation, not the cumulative load that the road will carry. This corridor cannot be widened. Our own comprehensive plan calls for the safety of all users, pedestrians included, and I do not believe adding this volume to a road with no pedestrian accommodation and without a cumulative study meets that standard. For these reasons, unresolved potable water supply, an unanswered question of legal authority, and an unsafe pedestrian corridor, I cannot make the findings that the statute requires. Thank you.
So I'd just like to follow up, if I might, with something that Alan said and also something that Cheryl said. The traffic study that was done by the applicant, Bryant Associates, I believe, did the traffic study, pointed out that the intersection of Main Road, Sousa Road, Main Road, and Schooner is the road that comes up the hill from the Boathouse Restaurant, that intersection has an AASHTO, that's the American Association of Highway Engineers, an AASHTO a rating of F. That's the worst. A is the best, F is the worst. It has that right now. Can you imagine what it's going to be like when you add all of the traffic from the units that Cheryl was just describing? And so that's a real concern. And it's not just a concern for traffic congestion and traffic accidents. It's also a concern for pedestrian circulation. I just wanted to follow up on that. Now, Cheryl also mentioned, she said buttoned up, that certain things aren't buttoned up. One thing that's not buttoned up, and it should be by this point in time, is the water that will need to be held on site in one or more tanks to serve not only domestic needs of the apartments, but also fire suppression. And I just wanted to remind everybody that back in January, we received a several-page memo from Lisa Goyer of PAR Corporation, a hydraulic engineer, saying that PAR had concluded that Stonebridge is not able to deliver through its normal pipe system all of the water needed for the project, and that the solution would be a tank. And Lisa mentioned that tank would supply water for both domestic use in the apartments and fire suppression. And she mentioned a number. She said it has to be at minimal 192,000 gallons. At our last meeting in June, we heard from another consultant from the developer, who was an expert. I forget his name. Maybe Mr. Mancini will remind me. I forget his name, but he's an expert in the fire code. And he said that a 192,000 gallon tank would be needed just for fire protection, fire suppression. And that was confirmed by one other person. I can't remember who at our June meeting. So all of this really is, it's not a guesstimate on the part of the Tiverton Fire Department. Tiverton Fire Department spends a lot of attention, pays a lot of attention to something called the National Fire Protection Association Code. And so there's a formula there that will tell you exactly how much water needs to be on site for fire suppression. Now, that raises the issue of, well, how about domestic use? And I asked that question. I sent my question to Todd. Todd sent it to the developer to answer. And I never got an answer to that question. We don't know if it's one tank or two tanks. We don't know if it's 200,000 gallons, 300,000 gallons? We don't know. These are really basic issues that really get discussed at master plan level. Certainly, they get resolved at preliminary plan level, because preliminary plan is where you do the heavy duty engineering. They still haven't figured it out. Now, will they? Yes, I think that at the end of the day, that they will figure out what they need, and whether it's one tank or two tanks, whether they're underground tanks or above ground tanks, but we don't know that. So that's a loose end that still has to be buttoned up. Thank you. That's all I had to say for now. More later.
Continue going around the table, Rosemary.
I guess it's my turn, but everybody here has brought out so many of my points that I don't want to reiterate.
That's why we went first.
Thank you. As you probably know me, I've been on the planning board many years, and this has been a big project. And I have no agenda. I have listened intently, and I take this position very seriously, as I have for many years. I believe in transparency, due diligence, receiving materials in an orderly and timely manner, which hasn't been the case all the time here because of the staff changing, and it hasn't been a good turn. I just want to make good decisions in order to protect the town and ensure good planning. Unfortunately, the state of Rhode Island has forced the municipalities in this case, through our planning board, to approve comprehensive permits applications. These applications are fast-track development for the benefit of developers. They disregard the existing infrastructure of the town and the density that we have, along with increased services that the townspeople are going to have to pick up. One size does not fit all. I have repeatedly been told it's the law, or the law has been changed. I asked for a copy of the law, but was again rebuffed. I'm certainly not against development or low to moderate income housing. We have passed that in the past, and we will pass more. I have listened and received numerous plans and reports from the experts, and listened to the residents concerning the problems that may be encountered. Cheryl described so many of my concerns, I will not reiterate them. But
If you want, you can probably say it better than I did.
no, I would also like to state that I do not ever recall receiving a draft decision before a vote was taken. But I'll just let Adam take over.
I want to mention something. I do want to mention what you just said. In the last year that I've been on this board, we have not failed to pass an application. We have not had a single application that we couldn't work with and get through the process, at least make even some of the projects that may not seem great to people, we at least work with the developers so far through all the decisions to do what they have, to make it accessible and take away some of the angst of the people in the town. And every one of them that have been approved in the last year that I've been here, we've never had one that has so far fell down like this one has, with refusal to meet some of the things that we've asked for. So that's just a touch on your point.
Thank you.
To mimic what my fellow board members have said, we're stewards of the town. We just want to do. I'm going to read this. You mind if I read this? I'm having a hard time speaking on. All right. Serving on this board is not simply about reviewing plans or applying regulations. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Yep. Serving on this board is not simply about reviewing plans or applying regulations. It is about stewardship. We are stewards of Tiverton's future, entrusted by our residents to carefully protect the community that we have built and the character that has defined this town for generations. Every decision we make has lasting consequences. Long after any individual project is completed, the effects of our decisions remain in our neighborhoods, our roads, our groundwater, our public safety, our natural resources, and in the quality of life enjoyed by current and future generations. That is a responsibility none of us take lightly. Our role is not to resist change for the sake of resisting change, nor is it to approve development simply because it is proposed. Our role is to ensure that growth occurs responsibly, sustainably, and in a manner that protects public health, safety, and welfare while remaining consistent with the long-term vision established by the town of Tiverton. As members of this board, we understand that we serve as one of the last local safeguards in the planning process. We are charged with asking difficult questions, scrutinizing complex technical evidence, and ensuring that proposals meet the standards established to protect our community. That responsibility requires diligence, independence, and the willingness to make difficult decisions when the evidence demands it. Many residents have expressed concern that Rhode Island's comprehensive permit laws have significantly limited the ability of municipalities to guide their own growth and land use decisions. Whether or not we agree with those laws is a matter of policy. They are the laws we are sworn to apply. But those laws do not diminish our responsibility. They do not relieve us of our obligation to carefully examine every application, weigh all of the evidence presented, and protect the legitimate public interest entrusted to this board. Affordable housing is an important public objective, and the board recognizes that need. However, affordable housing and responsible planning are not mutually exclusive. The law still requires careful consideration of public health, public safety, environmental protection, infrastructure capacity, groundwater resources, fiscal impacts, and the long-term welfare of the community. Throughout this review process, we have heard from engineers, planners, municipal officials, public safety professionals, consultants, and residents. We have reviewed extensive testimony and documentary evidence. Tonight, our responsibility is to evaluate that record fairly, objectively, and thoroughly. Above all else, we recognize that we are temporary stewards of a community that will outlive each of us. The decisions we make tonight will shape Tiverton for decades to come. Future residents will live with the consequences of our actions, just as we live with the decisions made by those who came before us. Okay, I'm going to get to I have some comprehensive plan items that I'd like to go over. And the first is the fact that North Tiverton has basically all expansion rights for the water districts and remaining in Tiverton. We have a very small section that North Tiverton governs right now, from the northwest corner of town. Right below it, you have Stonebridge. The remaining part, what remains in Tiverton, is going to be governed at whenever the time comes, whenever we stop using private wells, I guess, by North Tiverton Fire District. Now, North Tiverton had made a comment, let's see, let me find the exact words here. They had made a comment about being able to supply water to any future developments along Sousa Road specifically. In particular, that was going to be a large mixed-use, project on Sousa Road, okay, years ago. They would have no issue supplying that water. Now, we're going to advance this story about 15 years. North Tiverton cannot supply water to a project on Sousa Road. They've given it to Stonebridge. Now, Stonebridge, let's see. Hold on one second, you guys. Okay, North Tiverton has passed the authority of Stonebridge with a Stonebridge Stafford Pond, increased 200 gallons per year. Water body. Okay, so we have a well issue right now in South Tiverton. Now, I don't know if you'll be able to put the pieces together or if this is a little too disorganized, but we have what potentially could be 1,000 residents who are going to have their wells terminated due to PFAS chemicals. Right. So now, North Tiverton allegedly has the authority to sell water to those residents if they need municipal water. Are they going to pass the buck to Stonebridge as well? When the time comes, it's possible, very possible now, it's going to need some more research, that aquifer is it's not going to be feasible for who knows how long. And there's going to need to be some type of water main down Crandall Road, down Indian Ave. They're going to need emergency water.
What was that first road, Trainer Road?
Crandall Road? Yeah, the affected PFAS chemical areas that, I mean, if anybody's here from that area, they can speak on it. They're going to need municipal water. Now, like I said, there's an overlay map where North Tiverton says that is their responsibility to bring them municipal water. I don't see how they do that when they can't provide water to us 200 people on Sousa Road.
And I just want to clarify one thing. When you had said, sorry, I just want to clarify one item. When you had said North Tiverton couldn't supply that parcel on Sousa Road and they turned it over to Stonebridge, what North Tiverton did was, as far as I know, said they couldn't supply water. They didn't turn anything over.
Okay, right.
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 They just
We
said
can't
they couldn't
supply it.
supply it.
You guys are going to have to, correct. Okay, correct. So that being said, now they have the potential to be tasked with supplying water to 1,000 people in Southeast Tiverton. I don't see how, okay, so they give it to, they say, no, we can't, we can't. Somebody, you're gonna have to get it somewhere else. Now we go to Stonebridge. Stonebridge gets all of their water from Stafford Pond. Stafford Pond is not far away from that area. And Stafford Pond is, what does the state call it? So what is the state label Stafford Pond as?
Impaired
An impaired water body. Thank you, Stu.
with a TMDL program mandated by the federal US EPA.
The EPA, right. Sorry if that was, convoluted, but I mean, that's all. There's so many contradictions within the Stonebridge and North Tiverton fire districts. I don't think either of them are trustworthy entities. The transparency has been horrible. I mean, and it's actually noted in our comprehensive plan, the issues that we have had getting any transparency from our water departments. If you don't mind, I think I'll read it. North Tiverton Fire District and Stonebridge Fire District service the northern and eastern parts of Tiverton. Too fast, sorry. All right. North Tiverton Fire District and Stonebridge Fire District service the northern and eastern parts of Tiverton with treated water for households, businesses, and other organizations, as well as providing water for fire suppression. Since both districts are chartered by the state, they are not part of a municipal government. The districts have historically operated more or less independently from town government, and there may be a lack of needed accountability. Now, that hasn't changed. That one of the items in the comp plan was to see some more accountability and transparency from those water departments, and that just hasn't happened. That's it.
And I think just to pile on to that a little bit, both water departments do operate independently. It is not town water. The town does not appoint their board of directors, does not manage who they supply water to or when. So that is something that we have to take into consideration as well. It's not a town-run business where the department heads report in through a certain structure. Thank you. Stu, please.
So I'd like to just continue our discussion of water to the project and talk a little bit about the water treatment plant, which is, as you may know, off Quintal Drive near the middle school. It's a small building near Stafford Pond, drawing water directly out of Stafford Pond. And our Weston and Sampson consulting engineer, a hydrologist by the name of James Pearson, sent us a memo back in May in which he said, in part, what remains unexplored is whether Stonebridge Fire District has adequate water treatment capacity to provide treated water to keep pace with current and future demand. Now, the Stonebridge Fire District, the water treatment plant, as I understand it, has a rated capacity of 1.25 million gallons. So that would appear to be adequate, and that is what Stonebridge has reported to the State Water Resources Board in its 5-year water supply system management plan. That was back in 2022. So but Mr. Pearson is raising that issue. And I just wanted to remind people that back a few months ago, it was actually February 24, 2025, almost over a year ago now. There was a hearing before Town Council about merging the two water utilities, Stonebridge and North Tiverton. And the then moderator or superintendent of the North Tiverton Fire District got up and spoke against that merger. And one of the points he made was that there has been deferred maintenance on the water treatment plant for so long that it would take a great deal of money to bring that up to correct all of those deficiencies. And then he went on to say, and this was a public hearing, and you can see it on YouTube if you look at it. This gentleman's name is Paul Leroux. He is no longer with North Tiverton, but he told Town Council that if he found himself as the manager of the water treatment plant, the first thing he'd do is shut it down. Now, is he accurate or not accurate? I don't know. But he was in a position to know something about that water treatment plant. And I think that his comments are a little concerning. I think we should sit up and pay attention to those comments and follow up on them to see to what extent he's correct. So in the materials that we have received, we have both Timothy Byrne and Mr. Ferrari on record, either in a public meeting, a statement in a public meeting before the planning board, or in a memo, saying that they are working on a plan to study what needs to be done in the water treatment plant, what improvements, what upgrades, what modifications need to be undertaken. So they're working on that plan, but we haven't seen anything on paper about that plan. We do know that back in 2022, Stonebridge told the State Water Resources Board in their water supply system management plan that they were undertaking a study which would be sort of like a 5-year capital improvement program to upgrade and make the necessary improvements to the plant. That was 2022. This is 2026. We still haven't seen anything on paper. 4 years and they haven't done that plan. So that's a little concerning as well. Thank you.
Think you still agree with that? Please.
So, just to clarify, this is from the executive summary in the comp plan. So we have, this is part 7, we'll call it planned extensions. There are no plans to extend the boundaries of the North Tiverton Fire District service areas. The North Tiverton service area is almost at maximum capacity. This was in 2014. And in 2014, their capacity was at 98.8% serviced. That's it.
You can certainly have further discussion. You can talk about each of the standards if you want to. I would recommend at some point you go through the standards one by one. I mean, we've had this discussion now, and we can quickly recap what facts support or do not support each of the standards.
Okay, I think let's continue on. Restatement of that, I'll get into number 1.
Yeah.
Okay. The first of the statutory required findings is whether the proposed development is consistent with local needs as identified in the community's affordable housing plan and/or has satisfactorily addressed the issues where there may be inconsistencies. If the local board finds that the proposed development is inconsistent with the community's affordable housing plan, it must also find that the municipality has made significant progress in implementing its housing plan. You want to start with Stu? Any comments on that one, please?
I think the application meets this standard. We have a whole chapter in our comprehensive community plan on housing, and it underscores the need for more LMI units. I would like to also say that I'm disappointed that the applicant will not go beyond the minimum 25% of low and moderate income affordable units, because if they go to 25, then they become eligible for something called comprehensive permit status, and that allows them to get greater density and to get a number of different waivers or adjustments, as they're now called, from zoning requirements. So the applicant and other developers who have come before this board recently will go to the 25% to lock in that status, but they won't go a single unit more, which puts Tiverton in the difficult position of, well, I think Ashley Sweet put it a few months ago, like a dog chasing its tail. You never get to 10% because these group projects, they'll give us the 25%, but they're so huge that they also grow the basis from which we make our calculation for 10%. So I'm a tad disappointed. But having said that, I will say that I would say yes on this particular finding.
I'm just going to jump in here, Adam, because I've got a couple numbers. I'm just going to disagree. I don't find it consistent with local needs. Going back to a 2023 meeting that Attorney Mancini did, I think was one of the first meetings, he called the local area and the need for this development a trifecta. Basically that it would service Fall River, Providence to Newport. That was kind of a triangle area. So is it consistent with local needs? Well, local if we include Massachusetts and the state of Fall River, although no one from Tiverton is going to be excluded from living there, obviously. Does it meet local needs? I don't know. In some ways, but not in all ways do I find that consistent. I feel it's an overload of one small area. This is a very small area of town. We have over 500 units that would be coming in here, 531, just with the two developments of Pecasset Reserve and Vital. That's not up the road at the Sousa Road condos or other ones that have been approved before my time. I also feel we have made significant progress in our housing plan. 2 years ago, we were at 3 to 4%. We are now at 6.05% without including Pecasset Reserve and some of the others. So I'm voting no on that one. I don't think it's consistent with the local needs, and I do feel that we've made significant progress, especially for a small town. I know we're not at the 10%, but that is significant progress for a town our size. So.
The only thing I will say is it's going to be very difficult for the town of Tiverton to find a developer who's willing to go above and beyond that 25% mark. We don't offer anything. We don't have the transportation. We don't have the job base. We don't have the infrastructure. So that being said, I mean, that's going to be a difficult sell.
I'd like to
You're
make-
right, Adam.
I'd like to
I
make a
agree
mention.
with Adam on that.
I'd like to make a mention too, that if in the last 2 years, we're seeing almost a 50% increase in LMI, what standards anywhere else in the state could even touch that? Think about it, we went up 50%, from 4% to 6%. That's a 50% increase in LMI. That's pretty good. So I think that the need may or may not be there. And besides, one of the questions I did ask, I'm going to have to be corrected here on the actual date. I'll have to look back. I did make mention, some of the people here may have heard it. I asked what the target price for some of these units were, and the price that I heard was around $3,500. I don't consider that low to moderate income. Most people in this room pay less than that for their mortgage. So just calling it that and putting aside a couple of units and saying you're going to be doing that, what are the other units going to sell for? I mean, if that's a low to moderate income, $3,500, I don't think so for a 2-bedroom.
Just one thing, Mr. Meyer. That is defined by the state, what is low and moderate income.
Okay, but we're talking need. I'm talking about the need. We've
The need
increased.
for low and moderate income housing.
Right, ooh, with the need.
And what the price is for low and moderate income housing is defined by the state.
Okay.
That's all I want to clarify.
Well, that's fine, but we're still at 50% increase in the last couple of years. I think that satisfies making progress in that thing, that we don't have that need like some of the other cities and towns may have. So a direct answer to that question about the need, I think that answers that. 50% is pretty good in the last couple of years.
I think the
that is-
local need is also, I'm sorry, Adam.
No, go ahead, Sharon.
Pecasset Reserve is directly across the street at 275 units, which is going to have a variety of different types of homes. So when you're talking about local needs, would that be sufficient for our local needs? I mean, we're not talking our local needs from Fall River to Providence to Newport. You know, that's an expanded view, and we understand, we want LMI, we want housing, but we want it to be diverse and spread out through our town. We don't want to overburden one area. So when you're talking about local needs, dumping it in one area does not meet our local needs. Just my opinion. Everyone has their own. So, go ahead. So how do you feel about that, that standard? Whether the standard is whether the proposed development is consistent with local needs as identified in the community's affordable housing plan, and or has satisfactorily addressed the issues where there may be inconsistencies. If the local board finds that the proposed development is inconsistent with the community's affordable housing plan, it must also find that the municipality has made significant progress in implementing its housing plan.
I think we have.
Yes, no?
So, all right, I'll bring up what Alan just said. You know, the state has increased their affordable housing 50% over the past couple of years. So okay, all right. So, but so in the areas, where does that percentage come from? It's not this area, right? It's from areas it's from areas in the state who have things to offer. You said within the state.
No, I'm talking about the town.
Okay, just to
Okay,
clarify.
yeah, clarify that,
we,
because I missed
as
what you
a
said.
town
I
of
thought you said
Tiverton,
within the state has increased their affordable
No.
As
housing.
compared to
Okay.
the other towns in the state,
Okay,
we have increased.
okay.
It's, the numbers say that we've increased almost 50% in a couple of years. I think that's significant progress. So I think that would nullify the fact that the need is there. So I guess it's how you answer that question. Number one is, we'd have to get a definition of what a yes or no answer means, correct? For that answer.
Yeah. If there's
So
anything that you need to
You're
clarify on
asking
that.
us a yes or no on that standard. Can you give us a legal definition what we think? I mean, what the standard is that we are saying yes or no to? Saying that if we have the belief that we have met significant progress, that would be a not supported answer. Is that correct? The way these questions are posed, the standard is posed to us. What would a yes or no answer equate?
Yes,
According,
the standard of whether you have met local or is consistent with local needs. That means yes.
yes to the applicant or yes that we have?
Okay.
That's my question.
Whether the proposed development is consistent with local needs as identified in the affordable housing plan.
Yes. It's consistent, but unless we've made
my answer is
significant
no.
progress. That's what I'm asking you. If the exception is for significant progress, what does that
Then
change?
the next sentence, Alan, is if the local board finds that the proposed development is inconsistent with the community's affordable housing plan, it must also find that the municipality has made significant progress in implementing its housing plan.
Okay, so an inconsistent answer would say that we believe that we've already made sufficient progress. Is that correct?
You have to first find, Alan, that the that the proposed development is inconsistent with the affordable housing plan. If you find that, then you must also find that the town has made significant progress in implementing its housing plan.
So there are two parts to the question. If we find that portions of this plan are inconsistent, is our claim, we also have to show that we have made significant progress. Is that what you're saying?
It's two things you have to prove.
Yes, two things, okay. You just gotta be very clear when you're answering yes or no.
So, do you find that the proposed development is inconsistent with the community's affordable housing plan?
You're asking me personally, is my
That's the
vote?
first question.
Or is this a group vote or individual vote?
We can start with you.
If our making significant progress turns that into a negative, I would have to say that I don't believe.
No, it's two
See,
questions.
you can't have an opposing question in the same question. You can't say yes or no in the same
Alan,
question.
the sentence is, if the local board finds that the proposed development is inconsistent with the community's affordable housing plan, it must also find that the municipality has made significant progress in implementing the housing plan. So the first question is the proposed development inconsistent with the community's affordable housing plan? If yes, has the community also made significant progress in implementing the housing plan? So,
But what's this, if you're one answer for the entire section, how can you have a yes and a no in the same question? I believe it's consistent with a affordable housing plan, but it's not consistent based on, we have made significant progress, so therefore we don't need it to be consistent. Do you see what I'm saying?
so you're
you
saying
can't-
it is inconsistent with the
It
affordable
would
housing
have to
plan?
be that. I mean, it would have to be that if you only get one answer. It would have to be inconsistent.
That's the predicate question.
Okay, then the answer is no, it's not.
All right. So it's inconsistent with the community's affordable housing
Based on the
plan.
fact that we have made significant progress in the past 2 years, yes.
No.
That's my answer.
Okay, well, that's not how it works.
Okay. Well, the question gives both answers. It's opposite answers.
I'm reading the direct language.
I don't think I'm the only one who feels this way. Does anybody else feel this way? That if you say yes, it's consistent, you have to say.
I'm having a hard time with the 50%
Yeah.
increase in affordable housing. If we had almost none, 50% more is not much. But we don't live in a town
No, we
where.
have 4-point-something% up to 6.01 right now, I think.
It's
I mean, that's-
6 point,
That's
Tiverton,
50%.
as of
I know, that's pretty
2025,
Good. Considering the last 4 years, 8 years, and 10 years.
so Tiverton, according to the housing website that I looked it up at, is currently, as of 2025, at 6.05%, versus 2 years ago, it was at 4%. So that's what we're saying, we went from 4,
But 50%.
and that does not include Pecasset Reserve or any of the developments that are just starting or
Right.
in the approval process.
And really, what is that out of, so it's 25% out of that 200 in the overall scheme? What does that increase our affordable housing to? A half a percentage?
Pecasset Reserve is 69 LMI units, and Vital would be 64.
60% increase. You see what I'm saying?
I'm not arguing the fact that it's getting better,
Yeah.
but
So that's
we're just never going to get to where the state is. We're going to keep leveling this town and just growing incrementally, unless we get one of these developers to say, yeah, we're going to do 80% low to moderate
Right.
income housing.
Yeah, but
But for right
No, it's
now,
not gonna
we've got to answer the question. And the last part of the question on number 1 was, it must also find that the municipality has made significant progress in implementing its housing plan. So I think it depends what we think as a small town is significant progress towards implementing that housing plan. I personally think we've made significant progress, especially when you consider we've got other developments that we haven't yet absorbed. We haven't started to absorb Cassett Reserve yet. But the first part that I'm having a problem with is whether the proposed development is consistent with local needs. I'm having trouble with 275 across the street from 256. To me, that's not consistent with local needs, and that's not consistent with, what we said in our comp plan. And I just want to verify that that is the section that can be used in, because that is also coming up in another section. So is it consistent with local needs? Well, I think we have local needs taken care of by the 275. I don't know that we need additional units. When Vital is brought up, it's in the trifecta area of Fall River, Providence, and Newport. That isn't local to me. That I understand we want to contribute to the state's numbers. We want to increase and, do our part. Fully on board with that, but not off of one area, one small area. That's where I have the problem. So if there's something else that we need to clarify there, otherwise I'll go on to Rosemary.
There's just a couple of points on that. One is, and I know Stu raised the point of looking for developers that would go above that 25%. And I think the whole reason that the state has put everybody in this box is to try to create more affordable housing. And the way they've done that is to say, when you get up to 25%, we're going to give you all this additional density, because the way a cross subsidy works is that you have to sell enough other units at a higher price to be able to pay for the low income ones. So if you're going to go above 25%, the developers are going to be looking for even higher density. So you're going to see larger projects as you start to go above 25%. That's part of the way that works. The other thing is, well, that's just the way the cross subsidies work. Because what you're doing is you're paying that difference. And so that's how they're looking at the difference between that LMI and the market rate. So I'm not saying it's good one way or the other. I'm just saying that that's the reality in terms of when you start going above 25% or somebody's pushing higher, they're going to need or look for higher density.
Maybe I've made a better definition of the word needs. Is needed.
Well, again,
Our needs or the state's needs.
well, again, the overall, the state is looking at the percentage of affordable housing. So that's what they're looking at. They're looking at if you're at 10% or if you're under 10%, there is this opportunity for developers to come in under a comprehensive permit and ask for that additional density and things like that. If you were at 10%, this project probably wouldn't be here.
Well, I meant was, what is setting the 10%? I mean, and I know this, the law set the 10%. I understand that. But my point is, the needs of the town. I mean, these are not concrete things. Saying the word needs. I mean, whose needs? I mean, the needs
identified in the affordable housing plan.
Okay. Well,
I'm sorry, Mr. Romano.
As identified in the affordable housing plan.
Microphone's off.
I'm sorry.
I understand that, but make that a concrete answer. Something I'd like to hear what they're considering needs. Our needs of being able to traverse our town without having a 45-minute backup at a road is not a need of ours. So using a concrete example of what's not meeting our needs. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, but in our comprehensive plan, it talks about the need for affordable housing. Did the town do a housing assessment plan? Did the town go and do all of those things? No, I don't think they know exactly what that percentage is, but there is a percentage that the state is looking at, and that's why this project is really before us. So I don't think, and again, I don't think when you do affordable housing, when you do any housing, you can't dictate where the people who move into that come from. So it may draw from other areas or it may not. So I think that's just not you just can't say we're going to draw a box around this and this is only going to fulfill the needs of the town of Tiverton. So.
Well, but I understand that. But I mean, the needs will never end. Everyone in Fall River wants to move to Tiverton.
The needs will never end, but that 10%, if that is met, would start to curtail some of the comprehensive permit projects. But again, the density, all those density, and the waivers and all of those things would not be applicable if the town was at the 10%. I'm not saying that we needed to be at 10%, but that is what the state has set as that,
Right.
that standard.
But what I'm saying is, what would be the correct answer to that question if we believe that the need has been significantly met in the past years, much more so than not just our town, other towns around, looking to make that kind of progress in 2 years, with other ones coming on board any second that'll even move that up again. If we've met that burden, can we now say, no, it's not consistent with our needs because we've made significant progress?
Yeah, so
Isn't that what the
again,
question is?
the question is it inconsistent with the town's affordable housing?
My point
Right.
being
So
that
it's
significant progress diminishes the need, correct?
Well, the first question is just, is it consistent or inconsistent with the town's affordable housing regulations? Or not regulations, but their goals? So is it consistent or inconsistent? If it's consistent, that's the end of it, you know?
Well, I
But
guess
if
that's
it's
where we still
inconsistent-
have
if
questions,
it's- Yeah, so
though.
if it's inconsistent, then that's when it would go to, have you made considerable progress towards that, so.
Okay, so let me just say, ask the question. It says local needs. That's why I brought up the first meeting where we talked about Fall River to Providence to Newport. I understand the need to help the state. I understand that we're part of a commuting area. But this says whether the proposed development is consistent with local needs. We're looking at this from a town. So are we looking at this on a broader scale? Is that, I'm trying to understand that. And it's as identified in the community's affordable housing plan. Is that our comp plan? Because that says promote affordable housing options that are well integrated into the community and foster geographic, social, and cultural diversity. So that's what I'm going back to, is I don't understand the need to, that this is consistent if it's all going to be off of a small 2-lane road. You know, we want this throughout Tiverton so that we can integrate it. And that's where I'm having problems understanding the wording here. If you could try and clarify that for us, that would be helpful.
No, I understand where your conflict is in terms of what you're seeing is the fact that this is not this particular development or the last 2 or 3 are not integrated throughout the whole town, but you'd have to go back and look at all of the different developments that have happened that have affordable housing within them. And a lot of the ones in other areas of the town are on a much smaller scale. So
Right.
whether the idea is that affordable housing has been scattered throughout the town or is it being concentrated? But part of that has to do with the size of projects and their availability of water and sewer.
I did look at that, and I took a look at the variety of projects from Sandy Woods to, Bourne Mills and that type of thing. This is just high volume, high count within the small area. It's not spread out geographically. If you look at Sandy Woods, you're looking at a very small number. If you're looking at other developments, the same thing. There's a few houses here and there, but there's nothing as large scale as this that's come within the past few years. So I'm having trouble wrapping my head around, is this consistent with local needs? Well, not what we wrote in our comp plan, and I know people were here that helped write the plan, so I just want everyone to chime in on that. And I think significant progress for a small town from 2 years ago to now, that this is significant, but if that isn't gonna meet, what you're thinking of, then let's talk about that.
Also, all those projects are on major roads with multiple entrances in and out. This is part of the biggest problem of this project so far, has been the isolation of this project, the size of it in its isolation on a very small road with a very dangerous road. And that's really getting to the point of all of this, and it's been a discussion every single night, and we seem to get nowhere on that. But those other places have plenty of access to major roads and shopping areas and all that, and that is consistent with our comprehensive plan. I say this is not. So it's inconsistent with our comprehensive plan with regards to walking, pedestrian traffic, circulation, being where you can get
It's
to.
not the entire comprehensive plan, though. It's adds to the affordable housing portion of the plan.
I understand that.
Okay.
I do understand that. I'm just trying to parse this question that seems to be at odds with itself. So a yes answer is a no answer on the end of the question, a no is a yes on the beginning of the question, and it's hard to answer that question. We are going to end up litigating this, I can tell you. So, see this thumbs up. That means we're going to be litigating this. We need to be very careful in the way we answer these questions.
Agreed.
And that's why we're just asking for clarification on that so that we do understand it. You can hear which way we're going on it and guide us the best way possible.
So,
So, Rosemary, Adam?
so that's section 1, question 1. It might be helpful if we write our answers down now, so we can just rapid fire through and go through each section and give the numbers.
Yes.
Rosemary on number 1?
Number 1, yes.
Yes, the
So
project
yes,
is.
meaning,
Yes, meaning that they have met it.
What?
Can you just explain, if they say yes, it's consistent?
That's what we're trying to clarify with Mr. Eva right now.
The first part of the finding is whether the proposed development is consistent with the local needs as identified in the community's affordable housing plan and/or satisfactorily addressed the issues where there may be inconsistencies.
And your answer is yes?
Yes.
Okay, so we have 2 yeses and 2 nos.
so the second half of that, Rosemary?
If the local board finds that the proposed development is inconsistent with the community's affordable housing plan, it may also find the municipality has made significant progress in implementing its housing plan. I think the numbers, the way they've got this formula that was set up, and as Cheryl brought out, we have done that.
But it's one question is the
Yeah.
problem.
That, I know.
Hmm.
And when you go to get your comprehensive permit application, you're supposed to have everything set up.
This is deliberation between us all now, right? We can all speak to each other. This isn't like a single vote type thing.
I'm not controlling the meeting, but I would say yes, it appears to be a deliberation.
Okay.
Alan, so in 2016, Rhode Island Housing counted 358 housing units in Tiverton that qualified as low and moderate income. That's 5.1% of Tiverton's housing stock. And you said we're at what now?
6.05, but it declined after that
Right.
during the housing decline.
Okay.
We went significantly lower and then we went back up. I don't have all those numbers.
Right.
here.
So you have to, if you look at it over a 15-year period, not just 2, well, what kind of progress are we making? I'm trying to help. Is there a section of the comprehensive plan, Cheryl, that you want to cite that states that this project is inconsistent with the community's affordable housing plan? And you're pointing to,
I'm asking you if this is the most appropriate section here. It is on page 75, promote affordable housing options that are well integrated into the community and foster geographic, social, and cultural diversity.
all right, what you read there was one of the policies under 6.10, housing goal policies and actions, right?
That just happened to be one that was
No, I understand.
highlighted.
So then are there any actions?
You have 5 microphones on, only those who's currently speaking need a microphone. And then please speak directly into the microphone, it can't be off to the side.
Is there a specific action or policy that you want to refer to within 6.10? Because as is pointed out in the planner's memorandum, he points out section 6.10 with the goal, I don't know which number it is, of encouraging the diversity of housing types. To suggest that the project is consistent with local needs. There's also the policy of promoting affordable housing options, which you have there, integrated into the community. And then action number 5, to strengthen and clarify zoning provisions that allow multifamily housing. Action number 8 as well, all to suggest that
that the project is consistent with local needs. I would also point out action number 5 in part states alternative housing opportunities for those whose needs are not met by the traditional single-family home can be provided in the more densely developed portion of Tiverton where permitted by zoning.
I don't have the other ones highlighted in front of me here, but when I went through the comp plan, it talked about, it didn't talk about putting this volume of housing in one area. It talked about spreading it out through Tiverton, through the town, in a way that we could manage, in a way that was reasonable. I didn't see anything that that would promote this off a 2-lane road with no transportation and no ability to get to groceries, no ability to walk on the nearest street, and no ability for bikes. The only way out of the Vitel project would be with a car.
Okay.
And it's in a bunch of different sections. It's in conclusion after reading this, but I would have to go section by section. I feel like Pecasset Reserve, or the first development, whatever one came first, maybe that would have met the needs. But when you're putting one on top of another of this size, that's where I'm getting caught up in it. It's just 2 large projects in one small area.
And with, excuse me, Cheryl, and you cited Pecasset Reserve, that was in 2 phases too.
Okay, so
And a variety of house styles.
okay, so you are in part saying that this project is not consistent with the local needs identified in the Affordable Housing Plan. And it's not consistent because it's not consistent with section 6.10, which you pointed out there in part, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And I also feel the second part of that, I feel that we have made progress. Now, maybe there was a
Yep.
step back 10, 15 years ago, but I looked at housing numbers from 2 years ago where it was at 4%, and now it's at 6.05. That was the progress that I was talking about. Is that significant?
50%.
Yeah, I think it is, especially, for our size town, for our number of residents being at 16,000, for a number of things. I feel that's significant progress. And it does not include, once again, Pecasset Reserve. So we've got some additional numbers that are on there that we should be absorbing in that area to see how that area reacts. Can it hold more? I'm not opposed to this development in particular. I am not a strong supporter of it for that location for this reason, and then other pieces of the puzzle, as Attorney Mancini has mentioned, there are different components of this that we should be looking at in totality.
Okay.
Your point is good, is well taken. I'll change it to no.
No, please. You decide based on your knowledge
I'm
of
just-
Tiverton
The
and
discussion, because of the 2 parts.
Adam.
I said no.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
Stu?
I'm still a yes.
Okay, Stu. Did you get a roll? Okay, so we're done with number 1?
Done with discussion. Discussion for number 1.
Okay, so now we have,
Number 2.
okay. Number 2, whether the proposed development is in compliance with the standards and provisions of the municipality zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations, and/or where adjustments are requested by the applicant, whether whether local concerns that have been affected by the relief granted do not outweigh the state and local need for low and moderate income housing. For cities and towns that have low or moderate income housing in excess of the 10% of its year-round housing units where adjustments are requested, in addition to the above showing, the proposed development must show it has mitigated any impact of the proposed development on the general character of the surrounding area. That was a mouthful.
Yeah, I'm gonna need a second reading.
That section, last sentence does not apply because you're not at 10%.
No, I know.
Okay? So the question is, there are certain waivers to the zoning ordinance that have been requested. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Do the local concerns outweigh the need for low and moderate income housing, thereby denying or giving you rationale to deny those adjustments?
Now, is this where waivers come in that have been requested or any other information?
Right. So the terms get thrown around too much, too loosey-goosey.
Right.
Waivers are as to checklist items. What we're discussing here are adjustments to the zoning regulations, height, number of buildings, number of units. And I can tell you exactly, we can go through each of the requested adjustments one by one if you want.
Sure.
The first one is a use variant, an adjustment to allow an apartment house in the R40 zone
Multifamily.
where it is otherwise prohibited, in otherwise prohibited use.
And we already approved that at the master plan level.
That's correct. And you approved 10 residential buildings at the master plan level. That number has been reduced to six here.
Yes, correct.
So if it has already been approved at master level, do we need to go through those again?
It's been vested at
If they
10.
changed,
Right.
if they changed it though.
Yeah, they did
Right,
change.
if they changed it, but if it's as is,
If it's as is or less, I don't think you're going to win that any day of the
right.
week.
right. I was just wondering
Okay.
if you needed to reiterate it, if it was already set.
But this is where the height concern was.
That's another one. We'll get there.
That's in
Okay.
this this is under 2, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So we're good with the requested adjustment of rental units in the R40 zone.
Yes.
Yes.
The next one is, Rosemary, the dimensional variance to height.
Height.
At master plan, it was vested at 50 feet. They are now requesting 60 feet, 11 inches for the structure being foundation to peak, or 64 feet, 10 1/4 inches based on grade.
And I think we need to have a vote on that specifically. And I think we need to have a vote just on that issue because that's been controversial.
Yes.
Should we go through all of them first, though, or
I think-
stop here?
I think we should go one,
Yeah.
just check them off the list. So right now, we're at number 2, and we do need to take action on that now, I think.
Does a no vote on anyone negate the question?
Yeah.
The no vote would just send you back or send the applicant back to the 50-foot that he's vested at.
No, I meant on each, as we go through going through all these different things, will any one of those will any of those issues that we vote no on, and we, as a majority, a no, will that send us to complete that question in general, or will that question have to be broken down as subsets?
You should still address each of the adjustments requested.
So I guess you gotta vote.
So Stu, do you want to start that one?
I will start it, and I think going to 60 feet, 11 inches is justifiable because it makes the ceilings of the apartments higher and more desirable and easier to rent. And it also improves the exterior design of the building by permitting a peaked roof, which is more in the southern New England style than a mansard roof would be. So I am concerned about setting a precedent so that if we do agree to 60 and 11 inches, we need to be very specific in our written decision that we say this, not everybody's getting this. This is for a specific reason. So, but having said that, on balance, I would vote in favor of the 60 feet, 11 inches.
Now, just as a question, I don't know how you codify that. What happens is the next lawyer walks in and says, well, you gave it to this guy. And then we're in a lawsuit again, and then again, and then again. I don't see how you could codify that. If you're against 64 feet on Main Street and maybe on Fish Road or someplace else, that they can't hide it so well, do we really want to set a precedent for 64 feet on grade or 61 feet from peak to peak? But I mean, I don't see how we do what you said, because there's always going to be that argument, and they will win eventually. If they keep suing, they will win. And then eventually we will have a number of 60-foot buildings across our, especially the places you were talking about, your pedestrian-friendly zones, and we'll have skyscrapers there. Tiverton skyscrapers, by the way.
Alan just convinced me to change my vote. I will now support 50 feet.
Yeah.
Good job.
I'm just
Because with 50 feet, they still have 8-foot ceilings. I have rooms in my house with an 8-foot ceiling. It's fine. No one ever, that. And secondly, the mansard roof, although it originated in Second Empire France, in Paris, the mansard roof is a traditional New England style, and they can go back to that.
Just let me interject for 1 second. You need to just consider infeasibility and whether requiring them to stay at 50 feet or any condition that you may disagree with or adjustment that they're requesting creates an infeasible situation for the project to be approved.
I don't think it does. I think that they can easily fit within 50 feet. That's what they originally asked for, and we granted it.
Understood. I just want to make sure you were keeping in mind the infeasibility argument that could be raised and whether there was evidence presented to suggest that it is infeasible to meet 50 feet or any other condition that you may want to keep them at.
That's what it is. Well, they changed the number of buildings, which caused that change. The project was changed by the number of buildings, and they needed to make that back. No?
No,
10 buildings, now it's 6.
that's correct. But
Same
at
number of
master
units.
plan, it was 10 buildings, but it was still 2 of them were 4 stories. So that's not what, the number of buildings did not increase the height.
Okay. They said it was due to a marketing, they couldn't afford to do the project if they couldn't do it that way. I know which goes to an infeasibility argument, but it was a financial matter. That was one of the first meetings I was in since the town committee. That was.
But that's different than
Deciding
saying that the number of buildings changed and made it go up.
Okay.
I'm a no on the variance.
Adam,
Okay. I'm sorry. I
Rose-
couldn't hear you.
I need a minute. Go to Rosemary.
No.
She said no.
okay. I agree with the no's. I am a no.
So I guess what you run into with denying the height variance is what Alan just brought up is now the developer, and if I was the developer, I'd probably do this. I'd put up another building to make up for the height and just do another building that's 1 story shorter. So I mean, you just have to remember that's what you have the potential for here. When you vote no down, that they're gonna tack down more trees and put up another building, because that's what I would do. So I'm gonna say yes to the height variance.
Okay.
What's the next
Okay.
piece?
The next one, is a use variance to allow accessory commercial uses, including daycare and dog spa on this property at master plan. The board granted that adjustment. There's been no change to that adjustment here.
Fine.
Fine.
Next.
A dimensional variance for accessory structures that exceed 864 square feet, either individually, for example, the clubhouse, the daycare, potentially a dog spa, and then also in the aggregate for the accessory structures to exceed 864 square feet total. And at master plan, you granted all of that. It was not clear as to whether you had also granted the aggregate of greater than 864 square feet. I think it's implied, but that's up to you.
I don't have a problem with that.
I don't either.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I do not either have a problem with that.
Neither do I.
I don't either.
Okay, so we're all in agreement.
At master plan, an adjustment was granted for dimensional variance. Right, the limitation is 8 dwelling units per structure. You at master plan allowed 24 and 32 units in respective buildings. Here, they are asking for 24 and 80 units across 6 buildings.
So the change is,
The change is they still have multiple buildings at 24 units. They've reduced 2 buildings. And in doing so, they increased their 4-story buildings to 80 units each,
okay, and so.
rather than 60.
So it's not
32.
vested, they have not had that approved prior.
They had 24 and 32 units approved prior. They're now asking 24 and 80.
I would support that. Because that's simply consistent with the new building configuration, which is an improvement over what existed at master plan level.
Was that part of when they complied with the conservation development, the buffer areas and that type of thing? Was that
Yes.
part of that discussion?
Yes.
Yes, it
Okay.
was.
Then I would agree with Stu.
I'll go with Stu, yes, so.
Okay. Rosemary?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, yes.
The last adjustment is dimensional variance from the requirement to screen parking from non-residential uses in a residential zone. The R40 is a residential zone. They're asking to eliminate the screening requirement for parking for their non-residential uses, the daycare, for example.
I took a closer look at that, and I don't think that's a problem. No one's going to be, that area is screened.
Because you have the 75-foot required buffer with the conservation
But-
development in part.
So I don't think that that's an issue. I don't think that will give, I don't think that will diminish the visual attractiveness. I don't think anybody will be looking at a big parking lot. I think the parking will be screened to some extent, not just to the level that we would require in a conservation development. So I would be a yes on that.
That's based on the screening they have around the whole project?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm okay.
I agree with that. Based on the screening for the rest of the project, we've got the conservation development, the 75-foot buffer. So I agree with Stu.
I'm sorry, Miss Eva. I couldn't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Route 24 concern was me. I'm fine with it.
Adam?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
That's it for the adjustments that have been requested.
Okay.
The third,
Now,
Sir.
since those adjustments have been requested and approved, then we would be a yes on, is this project consistent with zoning subdivision regulations? We've made it consistent by granting these,
Except for the height.
Height.
exactly,
Okay.
exactly. But what we have done on height is
the 50 feet still.
we've
already.
We've already done that. So I think that
I'll do this next one.
uh,
No, we're not going to read the whole thing. I'll do it. The third required finding, I'm going to help you out here, is whether low and moderate income housing units proposed are integrated throughout the development. That's based on the size of the low and moderate income housing units, whether they look like they're integrated into the neighborhood, built and occupied in a proportional manner, and constructed in a proportional manner.
And I think the developer has told us that they will do that and that they will actually provide a document showing where each one of the affordables will be to prove that they are spreading them throughout the various buildings and not concentrating them in a ghetto. So I would be a yes on that.
I would just say Attorney Mancini has assured us of that in all the documents that I have reviewed, so I do not have a problem with that at all. Adam? You all set?
I was gonna say, yeah, as long as they provide documentation, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would suggest you make that as a condition, just
Yeah.
to spell it out, if you approve the project.
It is a condition.
Is it already? I'm sorry.
Oh, I think I read it listed as a condition.
Yeah.
Okay,
We've talked, well, if it's not, make it one.
yes.
Okay.
Adam?
Yeah.
You all set? Rosemary?
Yes.
Okay. On to number 4.
I'm going to ask if we skip number 4 because that's negative impacts on health and safety and just quickly do the last two.
Okay.
Is that-
The
are you
last
okay?
two are real easy.
That's
Right.
why I'm asking.
Yep.
So
Very-
required finding number 5 is whether there's adequate and permanent physical access to a public street.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. No question about that.
Yes.
Required finding number 6 is whether the proposed development will result in the creation of individual lots with any physical constraints to development.
I did have one question about that. Has an administrative subdivision been done to merge the two lots? There are two lots.
Correct. It has not been done yet, and that's generally a requirement of final plan and done
Right.
concurrently as we've done with other projects.
Right, okay.
So
That was just a question that
It's a good point.
that I
We should-
had in my mind because I hadn't heard about any administrative subdivision.
no, Mr. Hardy, and we should make that as a condition. You're correct.
But having asked or said that, I would say that yes, absolutely, this condition is met. No question about it.
I agree.
Yes.
I agree.
I agree.
So now we go back to
Rosemary?
the tough one.
Just want to get you on record. You're both all set with, we on 6?
Yes.
That was 6.
Do you want to restate that for Rosemary?
Sure. Rosemary, required finding number 6 is 6, excuse me. Whether the proposed development will result in the creation of individual lots with any physical constraints to development that building on those lots according to pertinent regulations and building standards would be impractical unless created only as a permanent open space.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Unless building standards would be impractical unless.
Created only as a permanent open space. So has the applicant met this standard?
Sure.
Yes.
I can you explain that to me better, please? Because I don't get the question, actually. Are we saying that the developer is just guaranteeing that he won't develop anymore on this lot after it's built? Is that all this is? He won't touch the open space, it's committed open space.
No, it's asking whether by approving this project, it will result in any individual lots that are unbuildable.
So the question doesn't really even apply to this project.
It doesn't
The
apply.
question is meant to disqualify somebody that comes before us and wants to create all kinds of non-conforming lots.
Future subdivision.
So,
You don't think 5 or 6 really apply
so,
to
so
this
five and
development?
6 are kind of no-brainers, and that, so we say yes to both of those.
I already said yes.
And that brings us back to number 4, which is the tough one.
And I'm going
I
to
just
pause.
want to make sure we're all set with what's recorded for Adam and Rosemary for 5 and 6. I think 5, we had everyone, 6.
Yeah, I said.
Okay, Rosemary? Yes, okay.
I'm going to ask for one indulgence. Madam Stenographer, do you need a break?
I could use 5 minutes.
If we can take a break until you think it might be about halfway through, I'll be fine.
I think now would be a good break
Oh, yeah.
time.
Okay.
I think it'll be.
5-minute recess.
We got a time. We're back from our break here and we're going to continue with number 4. Number 4 is whether there will be a significant negative impacts on the health and safety, current and future residents of the community in areas including, but not limited to, safe circulation of pedestrian and vehicular traffic, provision of emergency services, sewerage disposal, availability of potable water, adequate surface water runoff, and the preservation of natural, historic, or cultural features. Who would like to get started with this discussion?
Do you want to try to take it one topic at a time?
No, we didn't.
Well, we touched on a lot of them in our introduction.
Water.
I think we can discuss it, as a whole, or if you
Okay.
want to bring it up. And then if you need anything specific, I think the top 2 are obviously going to be the circulation of pedestrian traffic and the potable water, but anything that anyone brings up, and then we can bring it down to a concise level if we need to do that. So Stu, whoever wants to start. Adam.
Well, I'll start off with the pedestrian traffic issue has been my issue throughout this whole project. A landlocked project as big as this is bound.
Hold on. Did Mr. Mancini step out?
Yes.
I think he went to the head.
Okay, well, if he's in the bathroom, we're gonna wait.
Okay.
I'm sorry. That's fine.
They want to see your smiling face, Adam. There he is. Okay. Oh, Attorney Romano didn't want you to be excluded from anything. Okay, we were
Okay,
just starting number 4.
Returning on the subject of pedestrian traffic, this project being an isolated project because the isolation from the main roads creates a pedestrian nightmare for people. So without a car, without the use of an automobile, anybody, not just kids, but adults or anybody, walking out of that place steps onto a state highway, one that cannot be changed, cannot be added to, apparently because of a moratorium on the road. We've already figured out, and through the traffic study, that cars traditionally ride almost twice the speed limit there. Very little lighting, no shoulders to walk on, and no sidewalks. One of the concerns I had at the very beginning, we were talking about the school-age children, the kids in the buses out in the street. Of course, we've straightened that out. By the buses say they will go into the place. We want hopefully that they'll keep that up. I don't think the superintendent has a choice of what the bus company agrees to, but I think they'll do that. But the point is, the fact that we had to take the kids off of the street, we're accepting that there is a very dangerous problem on that street. So solving the problem only showed us the problem itself. But we are going to have probably close to, I don't buy the number of 16 kids in 256 units. That's foolishness. There's probably going to be about 100 kids there. These kids are going to get on their bikes, their scooters, and whatever. They're going to want to travel around the town. They're going to get onto a state highway. When cars coming up the hills, they cannot see over the hills. They come over the hills going twice the speed, and we're going to start seeing kids get hit by cars. And that's just what's going to happen. And even if they swerve, what do? They end up in a gully on the side of the road, injuring themselves. So this is we've already had a problem with accidents on that road. We have a huge problem with the traffic there. I was looking at the traffic study. That was just a static traffic study the way it is right now. We have a 270 unit place that's being finished right now. It's already in production. So we should have included that by adding that number to it. When you add that number to it, you're going to be over 3,000 trips a day. And our comprehensive plan says that was limited to 2,000 trips a day. I know that it was funny that the study came up as 1,700, just under that number. But any other traffic study that you do where you look at the numbers and just using the state code, which is very minimal, which is probably half of what will actually travel there. I travel that road all the time. It's always busy, especially at traffic time in the morning and the evening. You're going to have cars backed up all the way up the street and into the project waiting to get out. 20 minutes to get to a main road, and especially at rush hour time, you have that busy intersection at the highway entrance there at the very end. It's just going to be a nightmare. You get people that are sitting there waiting 20 minutes in traffic, start getting edgy, trying to go around people, more accidents, more problems. It's just a density issue in that street. And not having sidewalks, it was a discussion at the very beginning, and then having these two sidewalks that go to nowhere, they end at the water line, at the wetlands. They don't go anywhere. We didn't ask for an exercise track inside. We wanted sidewalks that pedestrians can get to the main roads. If they can get out to the main road on Fish Road, they have access to public transportation. They have a bus that goes by there. But they can't take advantage of that without walking a quarter mile on a state highway in the dark, sometimes at night. And the kids are not going to listen. They're not the most safe people in the world. They're not going to want to sit around under the watchful eyes of their parents. They're going to take off into the streets, into the meeting their friends at night and doing all the things that kids do, and they're going to be walking along a state highway with no shoulders. That, to me, automatically says that this is an unsafe project, just because the people, not just the people that are there already, but the people who are going to be in this place are going to come into a situation where it's going to be just inherently unsafe. That's a big problem for me. And I can't see any way this ends well when it comes to no pedestrian traffic at all. Our comprehensive plan asks for a safe manner pedestrian policy in our goal number 2. It says that inconsistency has demonstrated health and safety impact. This is exactly what this question is about. It negatively affects the safety and impact of the residents, not just the residents, but everybody else in the street. That the traffic will impact everybody. This is an issue that we've dealt with the whole time. There's no other way in or out of the place. And for that reason, I don't see how they fix it. They said they can't do anything about it. So my answer would be a no on that. It would have to be, because I can't see how they could mitigate this issue without putting a sidewalk in. The state says no. So I'm sorry, a piece of property was purchased at probably a good price, but there's just natural boundaries now that make it impossible to work with. That's just my thought.
Okay, I just need to follow up though.
Okay.
First of all, you've said twice now that, excuse me, the traffic report did not consider the other projects in the area.
Yes.
The August 2025 Bryant Associates report does indicate that they did consider Pecasset Reserve, the Seasons Market, and the Sousa Road Condo Project, the Trilogy Project, as we now know it.
Well, their number said 1,700. It was over. We're already over that now with no projects being done. The traffic study said there was approximately 2,000 cars per day. I mean, the thing said it was 1,700. Per day already.
Just with that knowledge that the expert report did consider those other projects, does that in any way change your opinion?
It's the sidewalks and the safety. There is absolutely no pedestrian circulation allowed outside that project. You cannot leave the project without stepping onto a very unsafe road with no sidewalks, not even shoulders on the side of the road. It goes right up to tree line.
All right.
And so, no, it doesn't change my.
Is there any way to fix that?
If they can, now we talked about this earlier.
Yep.
There was an issue that I said I could understand if they would build out walking areas that go out to at least one main road. They brought that out. They didn't want to they didn't want to take it through the wet areas there. I don't know what can be done that there is a place between homes that can go directly out to Main Road. They didn't seem to think it was feasible. But I mean, I'm sorry, I didn't make it a wet road. So the only way to do it is to get some sort of pedestrian traffic way that people can safely traverse out of that island there.
Is there a condition that could be created to solve that problem?
Well, the condition.
I know not everyone agrees with my questions here, but I'm trying to help you create a good record that might be defendable.
No, I agree with you.
Okay?
No, I agree with you. I was the one who made the ideas in the beginning. I was the one who said if we can create some sort of pedestrian traffic sidewalk that would make it out to at least another place. They've made it so they can't do crosswalks either, or no stop signs at the entrance. Nothing can be done on that road. So if there's going to be a way that we can get a sidewalk for those people to get out to a main road Whether it's crossing with a small bridge over the little wet channels that are there or something to go around it, that would be something that I'd be interested in, and I've already said that. I'm not using it as a reason just to willy-nilly deny something.
So one of the proposed conditions in the planner's memorandum was to require the applicant to work with the town staff, DOT, DEM,
Right.
to figure out a way to make that happen if possible.
Well, that was fine, but they did come back at the last meeting and said it's not going to happen. That was what I believe it was stated, that they're not going to be able to do it. They said no. They said the state said no, and that's it. As far as I'm concerned, that's where it ended. I don't remember anything past that.
I don't either.
I recall them reporting to you that according to, because there's that restriction. Moratorium, that they cannot do anything right now. But one of the proposed conditions
When we're
was,
talking about safety, a couple of years down the road, just hoping the state changes their mind doesn't change my mind at all in this decision. It would have to be something that's concrete, because those people are going to move in and the danger exists immediately. You see what I mean?
I see what you mean. So there's no way to correct this problem with the condition.
Well, we've already put the condition out. They came back and said there was no way to fix that problem. They've said they've tried everything.
It was a condition, a proposed condition, if you approve the project for final plan approval.
But they are.
But wasn't that to use best effort and
Yes.
to work
Yes.
with the town?
And I believe they came back, I mean, if I'm wrong, correct me, but I believe they came back and said that they checked with the state and they said the moratorium stands and that's it. There'll be no crosswalks, there'll be no nothing.
At this point, yes. But that was without working with the town to try to get that done. So I just want to make sure we're all clear on this. Because you also cannot create an infeasible situation. Okay?
I didn't create the situation. They did, right? I mean,
The environment is what it is, yes.
the environment is what it is. They purchased a piece of property that has these conditions that they can't get around. I mean, we're not making, the pedestrian policy is not something that we're making up. This is something that's part of our comprehensive plan, and I believe that just the safety itself, that even bypasses the 10%. I believe in the comprehensive permits, the safety and pedestrian plan and policy for safety and impact far supersedes that 10% need for towns. So the safety is very important. And unless the actual builder can find a way to work something with the state, something concrete, that by the time these people move into the house, they're going to be safe in that project, I don't know how I can say yes.
So I'm going to continue with that. I have a safety environmental background. I'm always going to look at safety, especially when it involves children, teens, people in this development. To have 256 units, that's 500-600 people easily. Could be more than that. We're not going to limit the amount of people there, but even if it's at 500, that's a lot of people to have without basically a way out unless they're in a vehicle. Talking teens, you're talking kids, there's no bikeability, there's no walkability. There are no taxis in Tiverton. There are no regular bus routes. There's one on Fish Road, like I mentioned before, from the park and ride, but they can't get there through a sidewalk. I think this should have been found out earlier in the process. I'm disappointed that it wasn't until the 11th hour that this came out, that we found out there were no sidewalks that were going to be doable. This should have come out much earlier in the engineering process. When you buy a parcel of land and you're talking about a development this large, you should look at those factors, just in my opinion. I appreciate having, the conservation development. I appreciate having the walkway inside, but that doesn't replace sidewalks to Main Road and to Fish Road or to that area. It doesn't replace it. It's a nice option for its purpose. It's not going to get 500 or 600 people out of there, and that's my concern. I don't think that meets the circulation of pedestrian vehicles. It's also noted in the Weston and Sampson report, which is in response to the traffic, not only about the average speed there, but it's the engineer mentioned this represents a significant danger to pedestrians walking on Sousa Road. This is Weston and Sampson memo, May 27th. And that just hits home. We don't even want one incident. We need to ensure the safety of people. And I think the traffic on Sousa Road is already heavy. It's going to increase significantly. And I think we should see the results of Pecasset Reserve, you know, and that just makes me concerned before we're approving anything else. And especially the residents not being able to walk or bike to a grocery store, that really bothers me. They cannot go out and get any basics unless they're in a car. And putting that many people together is just, to me, not a safe condition. That's it. Stu, or around the table, Rosemary, do you want to start?
No, I think the points are well taken. Health, safety, and welfare are extremely important. And also the solar glare when you're driving on Sousa Road. And now there are more e-bikes, and I mean, it's just hazardous. But I say no.
Thank you. Adam?
No, I don't think to say on that matter.
I'm sorry, Mr. Hooker.
To say on that matter.
Do you agree or not agree? Yes, no?
We have to vote on this?
On the pedestrian safety, that's the first section.
Yeah, there's an issue with pedestrian safety.
Okay, so you're a no?
Correct.
Okay. Stu?
These issues of pedestrian circulation, in particular, also the school bus issue, came up very early in our discussions on this project before we approved master plan. And I know that both Alan and I have spoken to it, going way back to the very beginning of our deliberations on this project. And I had the feeling that the developer's engineer wasn't really working with the planning board in good faith on this issue. They had, I think that a lot more people could have been engaged. I know it's a state road and it's hard to engage the state, but I think that that this issue deserved a lot more attention than it got. And it sort of drifted now into the very final stage. And I'm still concerned about the pedestrian safety. So I would agree with Alan and with Cheryl on that.
Thank you, Stu. Are we ready, Attorney, to go on to the availability of, well, let me just read the next one, is provision of emergency services, sewerage disposal. Does anyone have an issue with either of those?
No.
Was there an issue? Was there an issue with the water treatment or with?
No, Cheryl is going through a list of things, and I think she mentioned sewage, and they are connected to a sewer.
They are sewer there.
Yep.
Okay. The amount of sewerage is, they already
Yes,
stated, they gave us a.
we have
believe they have a letter
saying that they
Okay,
can
good.
handle
All
it.
right, I'm good.
Adam, was there anything on that one? No. Okay. The next item is availability of potable water,
Did we do emergency services?
emergency service and sewage disposal. No one had an issue on it. So that was all set.
There was a question before that we've discussed about, did we have any stipulations with regards to fire? We had a long discussion over that.
I believe the fire marshal answered all of those.
No, but
Questions?
Did
Is
it
there
result in
anything
any
outstanding?
stipulations is what I asked. Do you remember?
Attorney Romano is looking that up.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
We did have a lot of questions on that.
Yeah.
And he testified at the June meeting and prior to that, I believe.
I just asked if we had any stipulations that were generated because of those.
Other than a requirement for the fire water tank, I don't believe so.
There was a lot of questions on the tank, the fire pump, the filling of the tank that remained outstanding, but I think that was captured in other documents, wasn't it?
Hydrant requirement,
Oh, yeah, that's right.
if necessitated by the NFPA.
I knew
That's
there was
included
something.
here, yes.
Sprinklers. I
Well, it was the
believe
hydrants,
all
there was no
captured.
hydrants in the plan. Oh, we had I remember the stipulation being discussed.
If requested by the fire department, hydrants shall be installed.
Okay,
And all of the buildings are sprinkled.
Sprinklers.
yeah, okay.
That's building code.
Yeah, you might as
If
well.
you want to come up,
Yeah.
sure.
No,
No.
we're a closed
Oh,
hearing.
no,
We're a
no,
closed hearing, Captain.
oh, sorry. He was just clarifying what we said.
There are conditions about hydrants,
Okay,
NFPA standard,
okay.
okay?
All right, then that part is fine for me. The potable water has been our discussion all night.
Yep, so we're all set with everything to the point of availability of potable water?
Do you want to skip that and do surface
Well,
water
we can
runoff?
get rid of everything else that's on here first. We already got rid of 5 and 6. So let's just hop over availability of potable water for a minute. Adequate surface water runoff. Anyone?
That would be handled, with,
You're on. That's also-
that would be handled, but by the applicant through the RIPD's permit,
Right.
which supersedes everything else, so we don't have to worry about that.
I did not have any notes. Adam, did you have any notes on that, or Rosemary? Okay, just going to continue. The preservation of natural, historic, or cultural features. I believe we did have a line item in there on the stone walls.
Yes, we continued the condition about the stone walls.
Yes, yes, we still don't have answers to the questions raised by Jeffrey Emedy, who is the state historic preservation officer.
Okay,
Do we have that captured adequately, what Stu is mentioning?
we do.
Well, what are we doing about it? I mean, because this is gonna be administrative after today, supposedly at Master. I mean, are we waiting on a report from somebody?
Well, first of all, if you approve the project,
Yeah.
the applicant has already agreed to come back to this board with its final plan application.
Okay.
And that is one of the conditions if the project is approved.
Right. So
And we
there's
do have
stipulation.
conditions in here about the stone walls.
Okay,
We can double check to make sure it includes the
There's-
requirement for
there-
stone walls on plans.
It's not adequate. It needs to be redone, and staff needs to take a look at this letter that talks about showing the plan being accurate, to show the accurate measurements of the historic district, and to show the location of buildings, ruins, and stone walls on the plan. We never got that. That's another instance of the applicant's engineering firm not really taking this seriously, because I talked a lot about this, and Sue Anderson did as well. So all of that needs to be done. So what is in the staff memo is not adequate. That needs to be rewritten based on Jeffrey Emedy's letter.
Got it.
okay. So that means that the question would be, have these been satisfied? I guess the answer would be, there's
Yes,
some stipulations, but there's some that are wide open, right?
Do any of these circumstances that we've been discussing create a significant negative impact on health or safety?
Okay, okay.
And in some instances, they are being addressed through conditions.
Stipulations and
Right,
conditions, okay.
right. And so this historic preservation is not a problem if it's addressed through a proper condition, not the one that exists now.
Okay.
Okay.
So we all set on that issue?
You are onto your potable water.
Okay.
Okay, so
Water.
water has been my big issue all along, and I don't think we're there. And I think that the applicant has been hearing this meeting after meeting after meeting, And I still don't think we have the information, and I think I've spelled it all out tonight again, as to why why this issue still isn't buttoned up. And it needs to be buttoned up at the preliminary plan level. I'm not comfortable letting this slip off to final, because guess what? It'll never get done. That seems to be the pattern. And the fact that we can't even get numbers on how much water has to be stored on site when we know exactly how many units that we have in the project, apartment units, as well as the clubhouse, as well as the possible daycare center and dog, other buildings like the dog care. That should be easy to do. There are formulas where you know exactly how many gallons of water people typically use. So why we don't have those numbers, I'm not sure. We don't even actually have definitive numbers on how much we need for fire suppression, even though, again, that's a formula in NFPA. So
I don't think we've been given an accurate description of what system they're going to use either. We hear one large cistern, you can't use that because there's got to be separation between potable water and sprinklers anyhow. So just saying, oh, we'll take care of that in final, we don't even know if it'll work, because we don't have any instances in Stonebridge whole water district that has a pump tank system taking care of this. We have nothing to compare it to. It can just be a pipe dream. I mean, of course, these things are used elsewhere, so I'm not being facetious here. But we don't know if this will work for this project. We don't know if it's going to be buried above ground. They said they were going to, I've heard both stories so far when we've been talking. Sometime partial buried, sometime above ground. And then there was questions about it being above ground, and they said, oh no, we're going to bury it. So we don't have any details on how this is going to work. We have nothing to compare it to. We have nothing in Stonebridge that'll show the effects on the pipes with a backfeeding pump going back and forth, undulating pipe pumping at night. It's the middle of the night, and you wake up and you find out that there's breaks in the line someplace because of the back pressure from the pumping. That's how a pump works. It goes back and forth and pulls water. Those weak pipes, trust me, we all know about them. We've talked about them long enough. Could break in the middle of the night. You wake up to find there's no water. And without any water, these are people, 256 units that don't have water. The first place they're going to start screaming is to the water district. Then it's going to be the town. We have no water. And how long did they lose at the bottom of Bulgamarsh just a couple months ago?
How long?
How long will they go without water during this process? And what's that? Is something we could fix before it starts. We'd like to have answers to those questions of what you're going to do to provide water. We know that the person who takes care of it, we've already said it tonight, which is North Tiverton Water, cannot provide water, even though it's their district. We don't know about Stonebridge, whether they say they can, but I don't think they're even allowed to consider other projects and other systems and things with this coming up, such as the contamination in the water that we have right now in some of our wells across the city. Sorry. So I don't know. We just don't have enough answers to make a decision. I mean, we don't even know what kind of process they're going to use to store it or pump it or anything. There's been talk about it, and then it gets changed in the next meeting. So I don't think we have enough information for me to make an answer to that, is what I'm saying. It's not that we're against everything. It's just we don't have enough info. I think that is pretty much what the argument is, isn't it, Sue?
Yes.
I think we have pieces of the puzzle. Once again, we've had an abundance of information from Attorney Mancini on certain topics or pieces of the entire project, but not on the overall. And that's what concerns me. So we have a hydraulic model that shows a certain area of the Stonebridge water. Doesn't show the whole thing. It's not done in conjunction with North Tiverton, and it's not town-wide. We get a piece of that. When we had talked about this at the beginning, It's on Weston and Sampson website. It's right on Stonebridge website that we were going to have that. We didn't find out until Stu said it was the December meeting that that would take place. Under the conditions of approval, it says no impact, none, no, on the availability of water and water pressure for other uses, including those in the North Tiverton Water District. I don't know if they complied with that because it shows a 3 PSI drop for many of the customers. So 3% when your water pressure is already low, and there's already been significant testimony from residents saying their pressure is very low now. So to me, that's not no impact, or if we could just get additional information. Also on the, I believe it's master plan approval, number 39 said written confirmation from the applicable water authority prior to preliminary plan approval. This one goes up on to say other things, but it's written confirmation from Stonebridge if Stonebridge is saying that they can service this. It doesn't say that Par Engineering or Mr. Ferrari from Northeast or other people can act on their behalf. We have nothing from the Stonebridge Water Board saying that. Now, if this was North Tiverton and North Tiverton was supplying the letter, then they're authorized to do that. If Stonebridge had supplied the letter, maybe that would answer some of the questions. But we have consultants that were paid by Stonebridge to do certain projects. We don't have the confirmation from their board that those consultants are authorized to commit for this project, or I haven't seen it. So that remains a question for me. Mr. Burns said in our last meeting that he had board approval to service this area. And again, going through 3 years of minutes, I did not find that vote. And again, you may say it's not in our purview, but we are responsible as residents. We are responsible to do the research. If someone gives us something, we look it up. We go back and forth on documents, and we're just trying to do the best we can. So to me, it's a no, because I don't have all those questions answered. And I don't think it's fair for the safety of our residents to ask us to vote on something if we don't have that information, especially now with so many water questions. So I'm a no.
I need to ask you a question. You cited this no impact standard. Where was that, please?
It's in the master plan approval.
But we're not at master plan.
It was a condition of approval.
I see.
It's printed from our website, the town website. Again, this is just information that I've gathered in going through it. I'm trying to understand the process and trying to make sure we ensure the safety of our current residents as well as future residents.
So you're interpreting this condition of the master plan of no impact to be 0, not de minimis.
I'm trying to understand it, so I'm asking for information on it. I haven't received anything saying it had no impact.
You've received information saying the PSI might be reduced by 3.
For a certain area that was shown on the map that it was attached to.
Correct.
I didn't receive anything saying it had no impact, including those in the North Tiverton Water District, or for other water users. This seemed to be a little bit broader, so I'm asking for additional interpretation. Okay, Stu?
No.
Okay, Adam? No. Rosemary?
No.
Okay, you're a no, I'm a no. I think we've satisfied all of those. Do we need one general inclusive vote, or have we satisfied what you need?
Do you want me to make a summary motion for you based on everything you've discussed?
I think a summary motion,
I can do it.
okay.
Is it the motion of this board to deny the preliminary plan application for comprehensive permit to Vital based on the following? First,
I would like to say, based on everything that we have said, including the transcript and the YouTube video, because there was a lot included there and I don't want to miss anything.
Sure, and as a summary of your discussion this evening, required Required finding number 1, whether the development is consistent with local needs. This board has found that it is not. Required finding number 2, concerning meeting the municipality's zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations, and where they cannot be, where it is not met, where adjustments would satisfy it. You have said yes to all of the adjustments requested except for the height, requiring them to remain at the master plan level if the project were to be approved. Required finding number 3, regarding generally integration of the LMI units, you found that that was satisfied.
Yes.
I'm going to skip to required finding number 5, whether there's permanent and physical access to a street. The board finds that there is. Required finding number 6, that it will not, that this project will not result in the creation of an individual lot with physical constraints. You agree that this condition is or this required finding is satisfied. Finally, as to required finding number 4, you find that there is that this project poses significant negative impacts to the health and safety of current or future residents as it pertains to safe circulation of pedestrian and vehicular traffic, as well as availability of potable water. Otherwise, this project will not have a significant negative impact as to provision for emergency services, sewage disposal, surface water runoff, or preservation of natural, historical, or cultural features, with the fact that some of those are satisfied through proposed conditions.
Yes, that's correct. I believe that's correct.
And as a result, this board denies the preliminary plan comprehensive permit application of Vidal / BCP properties. Is that correct?
That's
Correct.
All right, so I'm going to ask that we just do a poll. I'll call the poll. Cheryl,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes.
Rosemary, Adam,
Yes.
Stu?
Yes,
And those yeses were that the proposed motion is what you want, correct?
correct.
Therefore, there's no need to discuss conditions.
Okay. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
9:44.
Okay. Rosemary's motion to adjourn. Who's that guy in the black shirt with the jeans?
I think he's.